In a world that walks the line, there's a rare few who think outside the box together for the crew. To break the equations, not bound to any rule. Exposing to the world the universe's own view. It takes the talent of the craftsman, it takes the mind of the fool, to make the vision realize energy and matter in a duel. To a break, to a duel. The old man Bills was running through his head. Cheryl probably got it hiding under his bed. Penny up to Annie making power for days. Don't listen to a word that the straight no says. Mike building batteries that power a ship. Victor comes in talking math as the water spiral dip. Sean chucking plasma volts a mile long. Sheila on the video making tone trumpet prongs. Bernie breaking matter, they said it couldn't be done. And to all the people in the chat, I know you're having fun. So it's time to spend your Saturday with the dope big old man Bills.
Hello everybody, welcome. My name is Nathan, otherwise known as Old Man Builds. What's going on, guys? Oh man, we got a fun one today. Government lying to us again. Look, I got something to say. It kind of really bothers me. Joe will be here in just a little bit. When I start looking things up, guys, you realize that all physics keeps doing is the repeater, and they give it different names. They think they're just going to confuse you by just throwing a bunch of garbage out there. You know, I was reading a physics paper, and if you take away all the big words, they don't sound so smart. Here's the thing that really bothers me about it and why I get angry about this kind of stuff. Here we are looking at an atom, right? Pretty simple. You go, okay, we got a proton, a neutron, and then we got a field that builds around it, right? Okay, that's not really a problem until you start looking at what they do. You have an electron on the outside. How does an electron build? You see, I looked up the experiment for an electron. You take a cathode ray tube and you basically put a vacuum on it, and then it builds out plasma. And then they say, oh, well, that always goes out to the negative. You go, okay. But you know, you're ionizing the air, correct? You realize that your process is not an electron anymore. It's an ion. You're taking an ion and wrapping it in an electron field. It's not the same as what they're trying to tell you. They're trying to tell you an electron balls up in a ball. That is not a fact. That's garbage science. What actually happens, and I'll just tell you, and it's the same thing that builds out inside of an atom. If you take ions, what happens? They build a field around them. It's an excuse me. Always get it all fixed up in my head. Electrodielectric. It's a magneto-electrodielectric field, basically is what it is. You're basically looking at voltage. It's high volts, high amps, okay? Amps turn into magnetic field, the volts stay high volts, right? Not really a problem. Magneto-dielectric is the word I was looking for. What we're seeing is the actual electron on the outside is just the same thing that it builds on the inside. So think about what I'm trying to say here. If the inside is a proton and a neutron and it builds out a field around it, what's the field out of builds around it? It's the magneto-dielectric field. Okay, but how do you manipulate that into creating an electron? Well, you have extra ions that sit on out there, and then around the ions wraps your magneto-dielectric again. It builds a satellite from it. You go, well, hold on. We're now calling ions out here different than protons and neutrons. Oh, but it gets funnier than that. You say, well, how do I make a proton? Oh, well, here we go. We take some quarks, and then we take some gluons, and we build those. And we build a field around that. So you're telling me that the field inside of an atom has something smaller that looks just like it. When you build out the electron, it has the exact same thing that builds out like it. Then you get up to the level of plasma physics, and you have the exact same thing that builds out just like it. Why do I have all the different names? Is the energy different? Are we changing something? Do we not know already that energy comes in all the same, and it's the environmental condition that changes it? Are you saying that the particle based on size has a different name every time? Did you give it a root value that it all equals the same thing in the end? No, you didn't. That's the problem. You see, when you start looking at this stuff, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because they're doing a repeater on the same thing. Let's go back to the original way we should figure this out. When it acts like a duck, quacks like a duck, and walks like a duck, it's a duck. Okay? Whatever's over there in the plasma physics is the same thing going on in your atomic level. What's the difference? How much energy is inside. That's it. How much did you compress the inner field? I don't care if you call them protons and neutrons, as long as you stay consistent as you build the field up from that and call them the same thing. Now you can give them a number next to it and say, okay, but they're by this many more. And then it gives you a different field size. I'm good with that. What I don't like is the continuous different names because it puts people in the wrong direction. They start thinking that everything's completely different. Oh, you can't build this, and then they come up with BS reasons to tell you why things are wrong. They go, oh, well, you got an electron, and when you no longer have an electron pair, then it goes into an ion. Well, did it start out as an ion in the center, maybe? Maybe the ions came together and they built the field on the outside of it, and then that's why it goes backwards that way? Because you can't go backwards and have a fairy come over with a little dust and say, hello, little boy, you now have another item here. You got something more. It doesn't work like that. It's good engineering to go backwards and forwards the same way. Either it's an ion from the beginning in the center, or it's not. Okay? Either you're building backwards and you say, we had an electron, it lost one of its pairs, it now went back to a neutron, okay, or it went over to a proton. Okay, I'm cool with either one. But be consistent throughout. The problem is, guys, they do it to confuse you because once you learn the secret of this and learn how to figure it out, it leads directly towards gravity and anti-gravity. Gravity is simply an atom that's built bigger. That's it. Anti-gravity is simply gravity made in your local environment. That's it. Why is it? Why? Why would that even be possible? Because the inside of gravity itself does not have mass. It is pure energy. It does not have mass associated with it. If you're inside that bubble, you have no mass. The weight reduction they continue to talk about is the removal of mass. Where is there no mass? In the part that's pure electricity. Where's the pure electricity? Right at the heart of it. That's not hard to understand. That's pretty simple. You know that you could build anti-gravity with, I don't know, 2 paper bowls, 2 CDs, and a couple little CD motors. And all you have to do on the outside is you have to put on a DC-AC wave on the outside and then put a Tesla coil next to it. And a little inverter and a Tesla coil next to it. Why does that work? I need you to really understand this. You always build 2 layers on every sheath layer. For every layer of electromagnetism, you're going to build a layer of diamagnetism. And you're going to have a double layer that goes on all the time. That's what has to happen. You have to pin that layer on the inside. It's so the field can't leak. It's always going to leak a little. That's the way nature goes. That's how it recycles itself. But that's what you have to build. Why is the Tesla coil acting that way to give you the diamagnetism? Well, it's very simple, actually. It goes back to Tesla's hairpin circuit. You literally build the opposite of what the first thing was. You use magnetism in order to build the Tesla coil. You then have to use the opposite to change it. Well, he told you how. Use the hairpin circuit. It's the opposite of it. Why do I put the rod down the center? Because it builds a hairpin circuit. That's why. It's the opposite. What do you get on the inside? You're capturing ions from the environment itself in order to create that hairpin circuit. So what does that mean? That they directly go against each other. The ion field and the magnetic field. But that's the same thing we just talked about inside the atom. We just said the same exact thing. We just said as soon as it does that, we have this result. That's pretty simple, isn't it? I just made anti-gravity as simple as it possibly can be for you and told you exactly how to build it. This isn't a difficult process. It's getting the words out of the way so that you don't have a garble full of garbage. Okay? That's what it is. When we start to understand things in this way, it makes it easier. You go, okay, if I just call them instead of protons and neutrons, I call them a positive and a negative ion. Okay, so what does that do for me? Well, if you look at it in proton and neutron, basically the more neutrons you have in there, you get a different type of magnetism. Okay, when you change that to a different level, higher or lower, you get another form of magnetism. This is the key to magnets. Why? Because they're building out sheath zones. They're building out against the environment itself. The environment itself is always going to capture it and push back. Whatever you're building out, it's going to push back on it. We see it in an atomic explosion. You build it out, boom. It catches it, puts it back into a donut shape, and compresses harder. Normally, you get a sphere, but the amount of compression against it brings it down to a donut shape. It's important to understand that. Why? Because what are you trying to do inside of an atom in order to make it anti-gravitational? You're trying to increase the spin of the ion inside. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get away with as many times as it goes positive as possible. Why does it go negative? Let me just explain that to you. It's the locking effect of every atom. So if you have a rotational spin this way, you have all positive. As soon as you get that neutron, boom, you get a second layer. As soon as I get some more neutrons in there to build up, boom, I get another one. That's the three-ring effect. That's what starts to happen when you start building up in there. Why does it do it? If you have too many ions in the center, it creates too much. It wants to go into an explosion level. How does it reduce the implosion? Or the explosion level? It reverses one. What does it do? It's looking for equilibrium. As soon as it gets equilibrium, it gets it by a reverse spin or a spin going another direction. And then it'll do it again. As you increase again, boom, it'll do it again. It'll throw another one. Every time, everything's trying to get back to equilibrium. Joe and I have said it a million times. What does that mean? It means that the first thing you must start out with in an atom is a negative. You cannot start out with a positive. The inner core must be negative. Why? Because you're trying to get back to a state of equilibrium. Every time the universe acts, it is to put you back in equilibrium, not in parallel, in equilibrium. It's trying to correct itself, and it'll write any code that it needs to correct what it sees is wrong. You put an ion out there, it'll build a sheath layer, right? So you get the magnetism layer. What happens after that? Well, it's now in equilibrium. But then you put more energy in the inside because you now compress the energy on the inside with the outside field. What does it do? It puts it out of balance again. You now need to go back to equilibrium. Therefore, it builds out again. When it can no longer handle pressure, what does it start to do? It takes that magnetodielectric, which is a field, not a ball, and what it'll do is it'll curl itself. Curl itself around what? More ions. It curls itself around more ions. And as soon as it does that, it starts to bring out another effect. You see, that's the trick. It's a repeater, and it has to do with compression of how things work. Once you understand this, that it's all building out that way, and that's all you need to do. It's a code that you can write. Take a zip file, unpack it, tell it how you want it to unpack it. Say you want to always bring it back to equilibrium, not to parallel, but to equilibrium. What will happen is everything will start to build out just like the universe. It'll continue to try to correct itself. As it tries to do that, it brings everything back to a state of equilibrium. You could say balance, but it's not exactly balance, is it? It's equilibrium. It's bringing it back to a state that it can live with. It's not bringing it back to the fundamental state. It's bringing it back to a state that it can live with. That's the difference. They're lying to you about the names of everything to keep it secret. Call it all the same thing. It's the same exact process again, 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 and again. Call it the same thing. Once you put so many words in there, you turn into a wordsmith. You say, how many fancy words can I put into this? And then you're wasting all of our time. It now takes us what? Years to go back and read all the research in order to put it back in perspective the way it should have been the first time? That you should have just said, hey, this is the same thing as it builds on every level. All we're doing is changing the amount of energy that's in there. Cool with me. I'm good with that. You don't need to call it fancy different names. If you do it, then you have to go back and you have to put, hey, this is where it came from. You ever go over there to a writing class and you have to put that in there? You know, this came from this paragraph 5 on the second line, and that's where it came from. That's where I got this quote, right? But that's the same thing you have to do here. You have to say, okay, it goes back to the fundamental energy. Okay? But it builds out like this with this multiple. Now things start to make sense. Now, when we get to anti-gravity, it's just gravity in reverse. Okay? Not even in reverse. You're just building it out again. Why? Because you're interacting with the environment. You can read papers on this, and they'll tell you the exact same thing I'm telling you. They just put it in a bunch of fancy words. I read one today, and it sounded like slop. I hate fancy words in what I do. Joe, what's up?
They're blowing smoke square up your rectum.
Right
Happy
on.
Friday, everybody.
Right on, Darren, brother. Thank you, man. 5 old man build memberships, bro. Right on.
Man. Thank you, bro.
So we're talking about this, Joe, talking about going back to equilibrium, something we talk about all the time. And I'm just mentioning the fact that when they build these systems up, it's the same thing, same process that's going on, and they just keep changing the names on us.
Yeah, man, that's what they do. Didn't they do that with the ether for a solid 125 years?
Well, what is the ether? If you think about it, it's the center of an atom, right? They're basically saying the center of the atom is the ether. It's a pure energy field. That's all it is. It doesn't have to have a fancy name. That's all it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at the center of an atom, you realize that the same thing that's at the center of the atom is at the center of all of these rotational phenomena, which is everything. And then you become to realize very quickly that that's everywhere, and therefore it's permeating, right? Remember, I've said this about the dimensional permeation and the pressures.
Yeah.
And it goes right back down to the molecular level, right? When everything starts to bond. Well, that is what matter is, right? The bonding of all these phenomena.
Yeah.
These bonds create these forces that they don't explain. That is the pressure. It's what we've been saying all along, man. It's like, but they take the words and make it far too esoteric. It's very attainable.
So what it basically means is we're creating a gearing system inside the center of any atom. It's a gearing system. So every time that it pops out and it goes negative on you, right? So if you get a whole bunch of protons that throws a neutron at you, that's the one that changes the field direction. Therefore, it's a gearing system and how it works, right? So then you build out and it gets more neutrons, and then you build out a second gear, right? So now you have these things that are rotating this way, and this way, just the same way they tell you the atom works, but it's a gearing system to get there. That's not out of the blue. It's one thing built another. So then you look at it as an engineer and you go, well, that's 100% right, because that's exactly what I'm seeing.
Well, funny thing is, right? So talk about like the right-hand rule, right? Which we're not far enough into the stream for me to innuendo too much. But you you do this, and then you curl your finger and you give it a little tickle up there, right? And it's like you just rub, right? And that's how you could tell the direction of the spin, right? But when you look at it in a mirror, what you realize is that the left-hand rule is the opposite of it, and it exists right there on the other side at all times. And that's sort of the the nuance to it is the inverse always exists because everything comes to zero. And zero does not equal zero. Zero equals all. You see? Then that's That's when I started going crazy talking about Fibonacci that time, and I was like, yeah, there's something wrong with the sequence because it's not like 0 1 1. It's kind of like negative zero, a negative 1 0 1, which equates to zero, but represents everything that comes from it, right?
Yeah, well, everything. So hold on, let me just say it this way. They're talking about core castle and stuff like that. Do you want to know what the real answer is? Let's just go to the monks real quick and let's describe this, right? We've done this several times. You take a rock, you put it in a bowl, okay? And then they start playing their tunes, right? One plays horns, one plays trumpets, you know what I mean? The other plays a little bonging thing, a little drum looking thing. What are they doing? So let's put this into perspective. What's the chords on the guitar, Joe?
E, A, D, G, F, something like
Okay.
that. I don't know. That sounds about right.
Okay, so if we take those things and we put each one as a sphere and we build it out, what happens?
They would form nested spheres
Okay,
in
so
harmonics.
harmonics, there we go. So basically, what we have is nested spheres and harmonics. So if they all continue to do that, what happens? Well, if we know that an atom builds that out naturally, right? And we see the core build out, and all we have to do is excite the ions in the center, or protons and neutrons, if that's the way you want to see it. And then we build out the nested spheres. We do it, now this energy gets higher because we're compressing it more. We're continuing the vibration here, 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 gives us more energy in here, right? Now we're compressing the energy in here. It spins, it spins, it spins. What are we actually doing? We just created the structure to the ions themselves. If everything's made of atoms, and if we said that the proton and neutron were ions themselves in disguise, then what did we just do? All we did was we took the atom layer and we compressed the amount of energy inside of it to the center by building out the layers around it. Therefore, we just put it in a state where it has no energy. Now it's Schauberger's. It basically creates a horn. It does a big round ball with a big shaft that comes out and blows out. Okay? It basically puts it in a slingshot, pulls it back, and zips it out, and boom, it shoots off.
Mhm.
That's exactly what you're doing. So what does that mean to everything else that's anti-gravitational? It's the same thing I just said. If you want to make anti-gravity in an environment, make gravity. You take the item itself, take the ions and compress them to the center to the highest amount of energy, because then the energy expand. In pure energy, nothing has weight. That's the problem. Nothing has
Right,
weight.
it's harmonic energy coupling, and
Yes.
when you have the harmonic energy coupling, ironically, it becomes no longer in phase because the differentials become extreme. You know, uh, with the surrounding environment, so there becomes a phase different. So the one thing leads to the other is the point. It's like, well, I thought you said it was this before. It's like, well, yes, it is, right? So you have this coupling that happens as a result of harmonic resonance, right? And then that's where you get huge amplification events from. And then once you have the huge amplification events now, with something that's a large mass, that mass has a certain capacitance in which it's going to be able to intake a certain amount of energy to a maximum extent. Then all of a sudden your ratios of your energy density levels go out of proportion to what they commonly would be ambiently. And then because of that huge differential, there's now a phase difference between that and the environment.
Let's just explain this. That phase difference, there's more energy inside the rock at that point than there is outside in the environment. Therefore, it'll shimmer and then it'll cease to look like anything. You will not see it. That's what he's talking about right there. It'll phase change. It'll go out of what you see as that phase in the environment into another one because the energy state is much higher. You got to remember, on the inside, when you talk about the ion, it goes to like 25 to the 25th power. It's exponentially high because you're taking basically the Casimir effect and cramming it into one spherical circle in order to do this. So it's continuing to build energy. And then boom,
Right.
we release.
So So how does that relate to certain things that we observe all the time, right? Well, look at things like, and I'm into crystals, right? Look at crystals, for instance, and I think transparent crystals are a great example of that,
Mhm.
because anything that has the ability to refract light, and also maintain transparency in that way too, to be able to refract it is, you know, it's in a high energy state in its still form.
Mhm.
So almost anything that's transparent for the most part. There's certain things that are transparent, like glass, for instance, really doesn't exhibit that property as much. It really gets its a transparent property off the fact that the light is able to it doesn't light doesn't permeate glass, right? So it creates an equal excitation or near equal excitation of the atomic structure of the glass that then actually puts out photons on the other side of the glass. um Not a lot of people know that, and it's pretty weird when you go to think about it, that the light inside your room coming in through the window from the sun, as you would think, is not actually from the sun at that point, because it's made that transient pass through a pane of glass. But
Oh
that's
yeah,
but that's true. It's not the same light. It's actually a separate emission altogether. Um,
yeah, I agree.
yeah, pretty weird. But yeah, but crystals show that in a high energy state, and that's why their refractive indexes are much higher. That's why you could get much greater optical properties out of crystal than you can in glass in the first place, because of coherence, right?
Mhm. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if Leechkin learned at the Coil Castle that this is all you have to do, and what they would used to do in Egypt is sing, each one in a different key, and they do it over time. And once you find out that it matches what these kids did over at the Coral Castle, it matches what the monks do, it matches what Tesla did. Remember, Tesla had to go in and put resonance frequency into iron for a long time in order to go. Why? Because it's such a long wave. It takes a lot of time to permeate. But what happened? It started shaking the building. It, resonance is what upsets things in nature. It goes against the balance, right? So in order to put it in back into equilibrium, it must go to the other side of that energy. That's what Joe says all the time. It goes dimensionally into another side.
Hmm.
Every time we build these things out, it does the same thing. When we look at something, they go, "Oh, energy is conserved," right? Well, energy is conserved, but it dissipates over a distance in an energy exchange. When they did the stuff to get onto some of this stuff, and they said, "Oh, this lady dropped the balls," and they dropped at the same time. What they're not telling you is, when you get out to space and stuff, it becomes very clear, because the amount of energy in there, it'll form an energy exchange, and it's pulling the energy from your craft and it puts it back into the opposite side. We saw that in that experiment where you had the plasma over here and the black ball over here, and they went through the center of the RAV, and it created both sides. It went to an energy exchange. Well, the energy doesn't go and just go to nothing, because you have all kinds of different energy. It goes into an energy exchange. I guess what I'm trying to tell people in this is, as the government keeps telling you all this stuff, they are not telling you the truth because they told you this. You would have put it together yourself a long time ago. Why is ancient civilizations like Egypt, Atlantis, how do they know all this information and we don't? How do they already know it? How did you see in all the cultures around the world? You see the sequential spheres every time. There's ball, a round circle, and then another one, another one, another one. If you build it out, they look like sphere after sphere after sphere. They always talk about light. Okay, in every single one of them. Why? Because it all starts with light. Light is the energetic force that starts everything inside our solar system. Hate to tell you that, but it's the truth. And guess what? Every culture knew it. Here we are trying to be the smallest culture in the world, and we got scientists swerving us with bad names so that we can't figure out the simplicity of it all.
Yeah, the conspiracy of this goes a lot further back than we generally give it credit for.
Mhm.
We think of these types of knowledge cover-ups and so on and so forth, tech cover-ups, to be more something that happened sometime like probably in the early 60s, when these were commonly spoken about subjects of what we propose the future might look like. And then all of a sudden, now it's taboo to talk about it. And if you talk about it, you're crazy, right?
Yeah.
But way before then, they already had started this process. In the 20s and 30s, they kind of changed the education systems first in the United States and then across the world. And well before then, it had already been different too. See, when we started off in this country, really people only went to school until like, maybe this, eighth grade at best, most of the time. And,
Yeah.
if you went to college, that was something, that was something extraordinary, pretty much.
Okay,
Uh,
Joe, I got something for you.
all right.
Sorry, it just hit my head and I had to get to you. Do you really split an atom? Now think about what we're talking about when we talk about how the atom works. Are they truly splitting it, or is there some other process at work?
Yes and no. It's a loaded question. Because I would say that you could really look at it either way. What are you really splitting when you split an atom? Um, are you splitting it? And see, where you go wrong is they make you imagine it like breaking a ball into pieces, like in
Like a
half,
hatchet cutting in half.
or into a couple different pieces or whatever. And that, I mean, I could assure you that that's simply not how it is, right? More what it is it's a breakdown and fracturing of a, of a specific resonance that's held in stability. So you have this stable resonance that's occurring and has been occurring, and a lot of times isn't even subject so much to time itself. Obviously, because it experiences different time dilations. That's why decay rates are all different, right, for different material. But everything has a decay rate. The
Mhm.
more stuff that they don't tell you, everything has a decay rate.
Mhm.
So when you're looking at fundamentally almost the same thing, but they all have different decay rates, what that ultimately says is that they're each each atom itself has its own locality of time dilation based on its resonance. Okay.
Okay.
Um, and why that's important to understand is when you split it, when you end up with more than one of something, okay, you end up with the resonant pieces, okay, in fractal proportion. However, that proportion breaks up.
Okay.
Okay. And what you end up with as the energy output was the force, okay, which was binding it together in the first place, then goes into a state of rest. So it's in a potential state and then, snaps back out to an immediate state of diffusion. So because that stability is there and that bond is broken. So
Well,
that's how I kind of think about it.
let me say it in an easy way. Why did they deplete all the ions out of every nuclear warhead? Now think about this. If I took an atom and I looked at it and I says, okay, all I have to do is make it get to the energetic state and not give it the ability to pull a neutron. If it's all ions, I have to give it the ability to never pull a negative. Okay? If it goes in the excess, if it keeps going in the same direction as the positive, then it'll explode. Now, what happens when I take the amount of TNT and create a ton of ions immediately, but never let the atom itself get to the negative state?
Right.
Now you're packing them in there, right? As soon as you pack them in there, what happens? You get a tremendous explosion. You see, that's the thing. That's what they're doing. They won't allow
Right.
ions to be in a nuclear warhead because it may trigger it to already start the,
So
pulling them
that's
in.
correct. So it's an implosion explosion event.
Yes.
And it's got to pull in first in order to have that compression, in order to then expand. And that's sort of the point of it. And in order for it to have that pull-in effect, it needs to be fairly void of its opposite, you know. So you get rid of you get rid of the ions, you're left with electrons, and then basically, you can have that sort of reaction occur.
Well, see, the electron it is a particle in the way they say it, but not in how they say it.
Right,
It
not in the
doesn't.
sense that you think I said I did.
No, yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't develop by itself. It's caused by the amount of ions pushed and confined into an area that
Yeah.
builds out that electromagnetic field that goes on beyond it. But that's what's holding it in. But on the outside of that, okay, you have to use diamagnetism in order to hold that in. So it's a reversal. You're using ions to a magnetic field, back to ions, back to a magnetic field, and then there's zones of equilibrium in between them, and every one of them. That gives you the double layer, the point of equilibrium, then the double layer, and it continues to build out that until it goes out and dissipates. And that's the way every single one of them has been built. And I don't care if you say it's in plasma physics. You could tell me that it gets down to the level of quarks, which build out the exact same way. And then you tell me, okay, it gets to the atom level. Now we get to the planetary level. We're doing the same thing. Don't ever think that the planetary level does not look just like an atom, because it does.
Okay, so you're touching on what I was saying before about when they changed the education system. So what I was getting at with it is that there used to be a more holistic approach to things. Okay, they would teach you about the things you needed to know, and even in higher education, there was less separation of subject matter, and more acceptance of crossover between subject matter. And by making this separation, right? Since it's the kind of the topic of what we're talking about today, right? It's like, because of this separation, what you end up with is a bunch of people learning that have no ability to make the connection of relevance between subject matter. And that ties directly into what you're saying right now, right? You're bringing it up in scale. Now you're going from nuclear physics into astronomy, and into planetary physics, and which is just two different things. They tell you that as an expert, you have to specialize in one of these things, and then as an expert, that you kind of have to stay in your lane and not bring stuff in from other places.
I see that.
So they keep this all the way, and it becomes compartmentalization, which, once they did it with the education system, so see how successful it is there, where you just have a bunch of people that can't connect the dots. You bring it into the professional realm in the private sector, and now you can keep some deep, dark secrets, can't you?
Yeah. If they told you, Joe, that the moon just built up next to the Earth right away, then they would have people figuring it out. But they can't say that, so they keep telling you it's collision. Why can't you say that? It's the same thing as an atom, as we just described. If you build it the same way and you build a plasma core in the center of our Earth, and it builds out a plasma core in the center of the moon, okay, what you're going to get is the same thing. Okay, it's going to build plasma dust. The amount of energy is going to hold in the plasma dust, right? And then you're going to get to obsidian. It's going to start to build obsidian. As it builds that out, it goes into gas inside pressure of the obsidian, which builds out crystal. Then what is it going to do? It's going to show you on the outside that there's more dust on the outside, and then every crystal is going to have ions in it. And on the moon, what do we get? Ion crystal, dust everywhere, probably obsidian in the center. And guess what? It has a nuclear signature to it. Why? Because it builds out just like an atom. If we split the moon, what happens? It creates an atomic energy explosion in space and would blow towards a planet. We get Mars. It's common sense at this point, if you can really think about it that way. Why does it give away the game? Because if everything builds out the same and you can see it, and you can put it into, a planet builds out a satellite next to it. The satellite next to it has the same energy. The RAB puts out the energy in the center, puts a satellite next to it. Then, oh my God, atoms build out the same way. We get this. We get the center core. It builds out a satellite next to it. Then we start looking at it. We go, oh my God, it's the same thing. It's the same trajectory. We called it different names. We could have done this a long time ago. What does it mean for space then? if you can create something that's so-called anti-gravity, which is not, it's gravitation in your local environment right here, then you can do it in space. But then guess what happens? Now you can use the energy that's out there everywhere, and you can now use it to get you past the speed of light. It's the same thing. Create the bubble, create the bubble, create the bubble. Make your warp drive, get past the speed of light. How do you do it? Use the environmental condition, not propulsion from a rocket. That's the point. It's all right there. It's the answer to everything because the world must get back to a state of equilibrium at all times.
So they've known this, what we've been saying about resonance and structuring and setting conditions and all this for a long time. And it was only recently that I stumbled on a video where I was like, this seems interesting. I don't know why I can't remember specifically what they called it, but it was something to do with crystallization resonance, okay? And how they mix these chemicals and drugs and stuff like that, different chemical compounds, and then they're able to get it to crystallize in a certain crystal habit. And at any given fucking time, that crystal habit could just say, you know what, I'm not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So they mix the exact same proportions and the exact same methods, and it will cease to create the same compound the same way. And then sometimes it could randomly pick up an entirely different crystal habit, okay, and morphic resonance. That's what they called it, morphic resonance. Okay, and like I said, they had several things that they had been trying to crystallize and get to combine into a solid and a compound for decades, and they were unsuccessful until one day randomly, it crystallized. And as soon as the first one crystallized,
all of them did it.
All of them in the whole entire world were capable of crystallizing in that same exact way. Morphic resonance. Oh, sound familiar? You set the conditions, and when the conditions are set properly, then bang, it falls in. It does the thing, right?
Yeah, but
they know that.
That's why it's equilibrium, Joe. That's why it's not parallelism. That's not why it transfers back to original state. The code writes itself to correct it. Okay? That's why it's called equilibrium. The universe writes a code that basically says, I'm going to unpack them this way. But then you change this, right? And you're trying to do this. Now I'm going to take that into consideration and unpack the code this way. So I'm going to put another 1 here instead of a 0, right? And then you get something new out of it. But that's the way that it's supposed to work. It's an unpacking code. That's all the universe is. That's why it works so well. It's all in geometry. It's not in algebraic terms. It's in geometry. That's why it works. Everything that you do, once you build out this structure and you start to realize how it turns and builds out in gearing systems, then things become predictable. I can predict right now probably which elements, based on the periodic table, which ones are going to become good magnets. Which ones can I combine that you wouldn't think of to get there? Because it becomes predictable. It now tells you which way you go, okay? How many neutrons are in there, or the negative ions, whatever you want to call them. How does that work out in the end? What is it doing? How do I create the shield better, or the field better, right? Then how do I get to the environment better? Because we're building on resistance here in magnets and copper, okay? And that's how we're building out a field. But is there a stronger one? Is there one that'll take in the energy with less torque to be put on it? And there is. That's why it started coming out in different tests. Joe, when I started running tests and putting different cores inside of different material, it started coming out with different numbers on filling a capacitor. You can fill a capacitor much faster with an element that basically has little resistance to it. Right. And then you're going, dude, what is going on here? This is all weird. But then you go back to the periodic table and you look at the atomic mass of something and you start looking at how many protons and neutrons are telling you in there, and it starts to align. I'm not saying that they got the amounts wrong or anything like that. I'm saying that the names throughout how they put everything were wrong. That's what I'm saying. They needed to go back and reference the one before it so that it came out to you understanding it. Because right now, with all the different names, nobody understands that garbage.
Right.
There's no need for it. We would have had anti-gravity in the 50s if you strip back all the names. And I'm damn sure that a lot of those people just sat there and one smart guy in the room said, hey, how about we just strip the names from them and go on how they act? And they go, oh, well, that sounds good. Oh, hey, did you know that once you create gravitation in this, that it goes anti-gravitical? And they go, oh, well, that's pretty important. In the 1940s, when they're smoking in the room and you can't hardly breathe, they figured this out. Okay. That's when they did it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's also when they accidentally clacked the two pieces of plutonium together for just a moment too long, too. And, sending people to their grave. But, I mean, call it what it is, progress.
Well, the Demon Core was the perfect example of how things build out into resonance fields. Because when the guy closed it on accident, the guy went over there and took the people that were involved in it, made them stand where they were and draw talk lines around them so that he can see the distance where everything went. And then the guy's basically dissolved on the inside on a horrifying death. They probably would have been better with a bullet to the brain, but because it was bad, dude. But I'm just saying that they marked those areas out so they know exactly the distance where the zones were. And then they calculate it and go, okay, well, this is the zones of this. That's how they found that one out. Yeah. That's liquefying the insides of you. That's horrifying.
No bueno. Yeah, crazy stuff. Yeah, they hide all sorts of shit from us for all sorts of reasons. Some good and some not so good. But what are you going to do? We used to talk about this a lot more when it comes down to if you have one, you kind of have it all, right? So if you have one and you have it all, then realistically, who needs all of that? And that becomes sort of like that, fine line question. And then becomes the practical usage of it when you get these things up to past certain efficiency points, right? You begin to open up the locks to all the doors of the weird physics, we'll call it, right? You start unlocking all the weird physics doors one after the next as you increase in these efficiency levels. By the time you reach superconductivity, you pretty much have all of your doors unlocked. And to have pure 0 point energy, right? To have that free flow exchange, interdimensional energy exchange to bring in all that means that you also have a time machine. It means that you also have, an anti-gravity capability. Probably means that you could probably, be able to peer into the past and future, and or impact it in some sort of meaningful way. So, is that something that you attach to the back of your dishwasher so you don't get a $300 bill at the end of the month? You know what I mean? And that's sort of the nuance. Like, do you put the fucking etheric veil portal into the back of everything just so we don't have to pay for electric? You see what I mean?
Yeah. So hold on, but let's explain why it has to do with time. If you're in the core of this thing, in the pure energy field, that field moves at an exponential amount of speed because the frequency gets so high, it goes way past microwaves, okay? Way past that, okay? You're into a giant amount of energy in there. But if you're in that core, and this is the important part, this is why it's an ion. The ion field is not bad on you when it comes to the amount of radiation. It's the magnetic field you better worry about. Okay, not saying that they both couldn't get you in some way, but when it comes down to it, that's what it is. But why is it in the center? Because it's so fast, you can't see it. It's time that it takes to rotate around something is so much faster than the outside field around it that you are literally dilating time in doing it. So if your craft is in that field, you are literally dilating time as soon as you turn it on. Because the field isn't built on the inside of the craft. The field is built on the outside of the craft. The outside of the craft on the shell builds it out from there. Therefore, the first field you get is a craft and everything in it. Therefore, you are in the core of it. You're already in the time dilation. They have stories about this when, you know what I mean, that people don't always believe. But if you say you're in a time dilation field and the aliens gave you an aircraft like that, right, or UFO, people would have trouble. Why? Because you get sick. If you're not used to traveling in time, you'd get sick. If you're sitting in the middle of your experiment and you're at the core of it, and everything around you builds a field and it holds it in, you don't feel so good.
Well, right. I mean, that's where like getting into saturation with in resonant saturation with that in which you are ambient of, becomes so critical. Believe it or not, the same exact type of phenomena that would have to exist, probably on a lesser level, would just be like, if you've ever walked into a situation where, it's, there's doom and gloom in the room, and, you're not there, and it immediately causes like dissonance and probably cause you to feel unwell also. If you were to amplify that up significantly based on the amount of differential, right, that you'd be experiencing, that's exactly the same thing. Is because you're not in doom and gloom. You're like just walking in, hey, what's up? Oh, ooh, what's going on here? You kind of get a pit in your stomach, and there you go. It's
You want me to describe the other thing, Joe? Check this out. You know, people say that when you get in this type of field, you see little black things moving around the room. Do you know what that actually is? You know how you talk about, oh man, I can't ever remember the word. Parallel dimension, right? To yours. Once you get into this field, the parallel dimension starts to come into focus. What does it start out as? Little black dots, little things around the room. You could be sitting in the room and it'll feel like there's a bunny right next to you. Okay, is there a bunny right next to you? No. You look over, it's not there. Okay, it could be another person in the room. Some guy standing behind you in all black and you just didn't know, right? Does he know you're there? Do you know he's there? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
This is the kind of stuff that goes on, and they call it demons in the room. Is it demons in the room? No, it's a parallel dimension that's coming into focus. What does that mean in time dilation, what Joe just said? Can you see the other side of it? Can you see the other time that's associated with it? Remember, equilibrium does not mean balance. Equilibrium means it's trying to equalize the environment any way it can, and it will write the code to do that, even if it means writing another dimension to do it.
Balance is just such a weird thing, and that's why equilibrium is such a weird thing. Because it's like you could use words that sound like equilibrium, right? Like balance or like
Mhm.
symmetry, symmetrical or equal or whatever. But it's not though in the same regard. It's just where they find stability based on their form. And that's not always at a perfect balance of anything. Sometimes the stability is a little offset, and that's where it runs stable.
Mhm. So when you say Roman soldiers in the basement, there's something going on with a time dilation field. The guy wakes up, or excuse me, they find a person in the middle of nowhere, and he's in this suit. Yet the time period doesn't say that it's supposed to have a guy in a suit at that time. Why? A time dilation happened upon the earth somewhere, and the guy went into it. Just understand that it's a natural process when you get into electricity. Why? It's that satellite. It's when it starts to build those out in the layers. You realize there's 2 or 3 layers in the earth. They're not wrong when they say, hey, there's a core layer and then there's another layer and another layer and another layer. What they're not combining with that is, hey, there's sheet zones in there and they're building out. When you get too close to them and there's a crack in the earth, guess what? You get to become part of it. You get to become part of that energy and experiment. Why do you think they go to Mel's hole? It throws something in Mel's hole like a dog that's dead. It comes back alive, starts barking around. Hey, it got part of the experiment, right?
Yeah, that's the mirror dog.
But that's kind of what's going on here. I mean, they're not realizing it's there. You dig into the earth and it sounds like demons. Why? Because the outside of the earth itself sounds like demons. Okay, it's so typical for them to just throw things out there. You know what I mean? Oh no, that can't happen. That can't happen. But then again, you go and look at the stuff that can happen. And you go, okay, is there sound out there in space? Yes. They go, oh, but I put it in a vacuum. It doesn't. Well, because of vacuum, you're trying to pull the energy out because you're pulling the air and everything out with it. You didn't realize that they were interconnected because you didn't realize what space was. That's what the whole crux about a whole stupid vacuum chamber is. If it's built in the local environment, it pulls all of it in. If it's not built in there and you suck all the air out, guess what? You lost all the energy with it because now you can't separate the air from the energy because there's no energy in there left. You got rid of it. Okay? That's the whole point. You are screwing yourself by doing it, by not letting it do it itself. It builds out naturally, beautifully. We saw it in the round. No problem. You put the stupid thing in a vacuum chamber, complete disaster.
Hey, Nathan, if you don't mind, I'm going to dip out for 5 minutes. I wrote a song a couple of days ago. I figured since we're having fun today, we would share it. But for me to do it, I need to upload it to my YouTube channel, I think, and give you the link. So,
okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go do that real quick, and then I'll be back. So look out for me, okay?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we're all getting it, right? We're almost at 10K subs. That's absolutely right, man. We're getting there. You know, I want to tell you guys this when we're doing this and talk with Joe over, because Joe and I came together and figured all this stuff out. And the real answer is this. When you start putting all this thing together, I mean, think about it. You talk about string theory, you're talking about resonant, right? We're always talking things building out in resonant. Everything builds out that way. You know, we're not the first people to see it. We look at Walter Russell. He saw it way before us. By the way, take the Russell scale and start to think of things as ions. And then start to think of this. John Hutchinson used ions in his experiments, right? The pieces of metal that he chose were high in ion content. What did he do? He ripped metal right apart. Why? Because he knew how to compress the ions in the center of it, and it tore the metal from the inside out. Understand what I just said, the inside out. The ions on the inside were compressed. He took it to another level. How did he get things to move? He basically put an anode and cathode out, and they created ions in the middle of them. When things started to get saturated, what did they do? The heat and energy in the room changed them. He used entropy in order to lift it. A lot of people didn't figure that out. 3M experiment, entropy. Why? Because the factory it's in is cold. It's not hot, it's cold. It's not musky, it's cold. The tape itself going around creates a cold energy because it's mostly pure E field. When you start doing that, the E field is always cold. The outside, okay, the inside of this machine is opposite on this one, sorry. The inside was hot. The outside was cold. When you get the two to mesh together, it starts building a wall. It takes time to do it, but it'll start aligning the actual air itself into a wall. Why do people not be able to reproduce it? They look at one effect and they say, I want to amplify that effect. They're not realizing what's going on. Had they done the experiment like I did and take a Tesla coil, put it to your Rodin coil, make sure you put it on the hairpin circuit, and then run it into your Rodin, what happens? It starts to mess with the environment because the E field in the core builds out the B field on the outside. So the ions that are trapped in the core build out the amount of heat and magnetism on the outside, and it makes a flow. What does that mean to the air outside? The air outside is now confined. It now makes a basic capacitor on the inside and starts to flow. It's a charged capacitance. But then Tesla coils do that anyway, don't they? If you put a number 2 coil out by itself, it does it by itself. We call it a node. Again, another word. Is it the same process? Absolutely. You're compressing ions. You're building a node in the coil that has no business having energy in it. Why does it do it? Because it's the compression of the ions in the air itself. It makes coupled capacitance when you put them into geometric form. together. Oh, coupled. Why is it that every time we look at it, coupled capacitance, building out layers is coupled capacitance. They start to work together, one field over the next field. They've been telling you this in history forever. Build it out, they align, they start locking to one another. They continue to build out. It's written all over the walls everywhere. We are not figuring it out, okay? It's everywhere. This is what they try to hide. The Knights Templar, everything that you ever thought, all of it combines to this. When you understand conversion properly, light, gas, plasma, then you get mass. When you understand conversion properly, it makes 100% sense why they would do it. Why can you see it in ancient times? Take a mirror to a crystal ball when you put light in the bottom of a crystal ball. It builds out the same zone as a RAV does, complete with a little plasma ball on the outside. You can see it in ancient times. You don't have to have all the sophistication we do. You could have built it out then. Why do you find tuning forks on statues over there in Egypt? Because they knew the exact same thing. Why do you think they sing to things? Because they put them in harmonic resonance. Why is the gravity flyer lifting? Why is it losing weight on the scale? I am putting in harmonic resonance. 3, 1, 3, 6, 9 are my multiplication factors. Bottom disk is 1. Top disk is multiplied by 3 of the bottom. Then I multiply that next number by 6. And then I get my high voltage field. I take that number, I multiply that by 9, and I get my Tesla coil field. I am in harmonic resonance in order to take this thing and make it anti-gravitational. Why? Because when you put it in harmonic resonance, it locks. But then it amplifies the energy as well because you're dealing with a beat frequency between two harmonically resonant things. Think about that. The beat frequency is the amplification. It's your water hammer to the pyramid. It is your amplification factor that goes on in everything that you do. So what happens to the inner core? It goes faster and faster and faster. And it takes that stringer limit and says, goodbye, pal. You're out of here. That's what it's doing. Okay? That's why it works. We understand it that way. That's why you're getting the effects going on in the gravity flyer. It literally builds out that way. It's designed to build that way. That's how I knew to do it. As soon as you saw the numbers coming out of these things, and you started figuring out, well, if I divide this by this and this divided by this divided by that, I start to get a number going on, right? And you're going, wow, rotational rate times 60 gives me my hertz. I go to my hertz on the bottom, and I said, okay, I'm going to multiply that by 3, which as soon as you put it multiplied by 3, what happens? They go into a harmonic resonance, the amount of energy in the craft starts going up, and the thing starts shaking like crazy. Everybody said, oh, you just got a junk piece of junk there. No. It's shaking because I'm putting more energy into it. As soon as I sat there and I hit that third field, and I hit the high voltage to it, and it did it again, light bulb, boom, right there. Hey, we got it. We got it. We got it. What's the problem with it? The damn thing likes to come out of alignment. Okay? Whole problem I've ever had with this stupid thing. They built it junky, like you say, so it comes out of alignment. I built a new one. Yeah, we're going to find out a different process here now. Look, what I'm trying to tell you is all of it is right in front of you. As a matter of fact, some of the greatest breakthrough in physics are now in our grasp. Now that we understand this, it becomes very simple. The U.S. Navy knew it. You don't think that they didn't. They wrote papers on this stuff. Not a lot of big giant words in there for no reason, but they essentially told you the exact same thing that I just told you. Okay? There's no getting around it. They told you the exact same thing, but they didn't say it in simple words. They tried to make it overcomplicated. I'm trying to make it as simple as I can to regular language for you. When you build it out this way, you start to see this and you start to go, oh my God. We not only have a simple anti-gravity, we should now go into space, build a field out there, and as soon as we build out, it'll build its own O3, create its own environment and its own gravity all at once because we knew the essential factors of it. Joe,
What are you making 03 on me now? What are you doing?
first we're making O3. Hey, you can't make the environment without that condition going on.
Yeah. That's okay. All I'm making over here is methane.
No, Joe, I was telling him we're right on that cusp, man, of making a breakthrough. I mean, I don't think they really understand how close we are. And I'll just say it like this: Lightspeed, he made a correction code already. See, that's the point. He called me up a while back and asked me if I wanted to be part of a physics paper that he was writing, and he was looking at my channel and what we were talking about. And he got it right away and said, okay, let's put those parameters in here and see if it works. Well, guess what? Yeah, it does. Now that we can define it better for him, it'll work even better. When you already have the correction code, you literally are already there. Look, that's the thing. Once we define more things over everything that's going on, he'll be able to predict everything that goes on in physics. Everything. So this big box I get sitting behind me, Joe, is everything that he sent me.
Oh, I came. You didn't. I haven't been up on my messages, man. I've been feeling like a dumpster fire all week. Is what I. Like, man, I've had fluid and stuff. It's been terrible.
I planned on pack it in its own video. I was waiting. You know what I mean? My kid's birthday's today, so
give it the attention it deserves. Exactly. Yeah. You got to give it the attention it deserves. Sometimes you get real excited because you've been waiting for something for so damn long. You've been looking forward to it. You're like, but like you need to be an adult about it and give it the time it deserves,
Dude, I'm like a kid in a candy store. I build everything and I finally now am going to be able to see it, Joe.
Awesome.
Like, dude, I'm like over the moon right now, bro. Like Sean, I told Sean, got Sean the list, and I want to thank Lightspeed out there. Gave him all the links and everything, and Sean's been buying stuff like crazy. He literally is so excited. He says he's been looking for something like this forever. Okay? Mm-hmm. So Sean's like, just tell me what it is we need to do, and I'll do it. And Sean does every experiment in the world. So, between the electrodes and everything else, and then the experiments I do with high voltage, we both do Tesla coils. We both can do the RAV. Sean's way better at the RAV than anybody else. But I'll just say this. It's going to provide a ton of data. And, you know what I mean? If we can get Bernie involved a little bit and mixing some materials together, we're going to build the ultimate magnet out of it. You know what I mean? Some of the things that go on here, man, are just, I have to pinch myself sometimes, Joe, because we're getting there. I started out this channel, and for those of you who haven't watched it in the beginning, I was just taking a DC flyback and sparking it and was all excited. I'm like, oh, it finally worked. You know what I mean? And then I got to the point where I could control the frequency, and I'm like, I can control it. This is so awesome, right? I mean, I don't know how many times I shocked myself, probably more times than I got film out there.
I mean, look, man, when I joined you, you were past that point by plenty, right?
Yeah.
But even then, the progress, because now we talk about the things because we've seen the things because we've done the things, right?
Yeah.
But when we were talking about it then, it was very, like, we used to be like, all right, woo alert. It was like, woo, here we go, right? It's like, let's be a little out there. None of it's friggin' out there anymore, man, because we're like, hey, remember that thing we told you about? Let's do the video.
Oh, yeah. We've seen the darkness in the energy. Pure dark energy. We saw it in Sean's experiment. That was awesome. I still love it. I've seen
it with my own two eyes. It's weird, dude. It's weird. Yeah. The dark spots are weird.
Yeah.
And, like when you used to see him with the Tesla coil, I'd seen him with the Tesla coil too. But it's very it's it's there, but it's not like it is with the Rav. With the Rav, it's like concentrated. It's like
Oh yeah,
accumulating and shit. Like, ooh, that's strange. Yeah.
it's funny. I was looking back and people try to debunk the camera effect, but literally in physics they use it as a cosmic mirror, is what they're trying to say, which is the exact same thing we
A
described. The energy
cosmic mirror is
exchange.
exactly what I said. I was like, it's a fourth dimensional projection, aka a cosmic mirror. Exactly what it is.
Well, I just found it funny because every time I keep getting people trying to debunk me, I go back and look it up, right? Because look, what I hate doing is going out there and getting information and it could be completely wrong because I'll have to apologize for it. So I'm going to read. And let me tell you, once you piss me off to the fact where I have to go back and read a bunch of stuff, you're in trouble because then I have the ability to learn. I don't have the ability to memorize. I have the ability to learn. So I'm going to get out and weaponize that in order to prove that I'm right in some way.
Right.
Joe knows this about me all the time.
I hear that, man. And you know what my motto is? It's that I'm always right, except for when I'm wrong.
Gotta become right again. I love it, dude. No, but dude, it's not that they mean to. I don't really think that they honestly mean to, Joe. I just think that they don't know any better. I think they get,
It's just they're in a box, man. That's the problem.
yeah.
They're seeing something somewhere, and they're just not seeing the big picture of it. And that's the thing. That's what I've been saying is just you have to, to see beyond the veil, you have to see beyond the box.
So,
you know.
yeah, I guess I was trying to make this point earlier. I'll say it now. Residents, we deal in zones of residents themselves, right? So there we go. We got string theory in there, right? We can go to the electric universe. Are we seeing electricity built out from ions themselves in the core, or if you want to call them in the atoms, we got neutrons and whatever. Are they building out to energy? Absolutely, they are. Are they building out to magnetism and everything else? Yeah. Well, you can't have it without energy. So are we seeing everything built out in that? So yeah, is the electrical universe out there and is it theory proven? Yes. Is string theory part of it? Yes. Is standard physics part of it? Yes. You cannot take that much data and just dismiss it. It must be part of it. So now you're taking that into consideration in the theories. All of them matching what we're saying. None of them are outside of that. That's why I laugh when I say you're debunking what? Like the only person that looks like an idiot is the person trying to debunk it because you just didn't understand. All of it is in the same thing. That's why I call it equilibrium theory, because when you look at it, that's exactly what it is. It says that all the other theories are completely inside of it and work together harmoniously. That's the point. It's harmonious.
Yeah.
Because you're not looking for an equivalent. You're not looking for the equal signs in algebra. You're looking, okay, for it to be an equilibrium. That's why it's different. It's not the equal sign. Why do you think they go over there and the mathematicians that do this take the fraction, they turn it upside down on the other side? Because they're looking for equals. But that's not what it is. It's equilibrium. So you have the fraction over here, but then you have to write a separate code over here in order for it to be an equilibrium. It's never an equals. That's why I keep saying it's in geometry, and it frustrates me because you're not looking at it the right way. Okay? You're not seeing that fact. You're close, you're not there.
I think everybody is going to have a certain liking of my song if you're able to follow the lyrics a little bit.
I got that.
Yeah, because it kind of has the answers in there. Like, I mean, not the full answers, and it's a little ambiguous and broad, but like as I usually try in my writing of songs, like I like a certain theme, and the theme is all the stuff we talk about, and kind of broadening the horizon. And I tried to make sure that all the greater secrets are kind of tucked in there somewhere. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And
Yeah.
it's got a kick-ass chorus. Sono has come a long way, dude. So now you can generate your song, tear it apart into its bits and pieces, every single part, throw it into an editor, chew out parts you don't like and replace it with parts that you do. and stuff like that, and basically use it as a full-blown music production circumstance. So like I didn't spend like weeks on this, but you know, I thought for the few hours that I did spend on it, aside from writing the lyrics, you know, it came out pretty damn good. I thought so at least.
So did you already upload it, Joe?
Yeah, I sent you the link. It's in your
Facebook?
yeah, in your Facebook.
Give me 1 second. Let me pull that back up. I think
hopefully everybody's in the mood for that. I think they'll get a kick out of it. It's a little metal.
Okay, give me 1 second. Found it.
Found God in a ball flame, coiling copper. A real rotational show stopper. Trisma gets buried in Maxwell's fourth revised. Carved equations in drywall, a pair of schizophrenic eyes. Corpus hermeticum curled up in a Faraday cage. Experiencing the framework in the ether like a sage. You think reality is particles? Nah. Existence is impedance, consciousness couples as matter and energy resolve their grievance. Measuring angels and volts, demons run in phase delay. Pulsing current and sacred symbols to see what the field would say. Latinus in one hand, Osco in the other, a philosopher king. Sleep deprived motherfucker, don't pray for miracles. Prototype them as above, as below, as within, as the dialectic breaks. Send the pulse, crack open the gate. Wake up, rip the veil apart with pliers. Turn thought into pressure, turn pressure into fire. Send the pulse, ride the pulse, found the key to the gate. Send the pulse, ride the pulse, found the key to the gate. Go ahead and peer review, vouch up here into this vortex. I've got semiconductive scriptures and inductive occultist. The old God in scripture, old deities and scrolls. Engineers of our planet terraform the barren soils, injected with souls. The Lord isn't seated in some heavenly throne, it oscillates inside what we call our own. Pleroma isn't up there, it's not some distant place. It is right here upon us, it permeates the space. As above, as below, as within, as the dialectic breaks. Send the pulse, crack open the gate. Wake up, rip the veil apart with pliers. Turn thought into pressure, turn pressure into fire. Send the pulse, ride the pulse, found the key to the gate. Send the pulse, ride the pulse, found the key to the gate. Never died, just renamed and defined. What was lost was found, was re-lost. Time buried it, I real deep in a bureaucratic haze. Compartmentalize the knowledge long as the black budget pays. Resurrecting language of copper windings and profanity. Watch what this motherfucker does when I switch polarity. As above, as below, as within, as the dialectic breaks. Send the pulse, crack open the gate. Wake up, rip the veil apart with pliers. Turn thought into pressure, turn pressure into fire. Send the pulse, ride the pulse, found the key to the gate. Send the pulse, ride the pulse, found the key to the gate. Watch what this motherfucker does when we switch polarity.
That's the good part.
What this motherfucker does when we switch polarity. Watch what this motherfucker does when we switch polarity. Watch what this motherfucker does when we switch polarity. Watch what this motherfucker does when we switch polarity. Watch what
Dude, that's awesome, Joe.
I thought that. I mean, it's pretty repetitive at this point, but yeah. So
There it goes.
yeah, kind of get the point there.
Dude, that's awesome. We're gonna have to play that when we start doing high voltage, dude. That's like the perfect song.
Yeah, really. I thought that the way that I wrote up that chorus and how it bridged over and stuff,
Yeah.
watch
Dude.
the dielectric break,
Switch
crack open the gate.
polarity. Love that. I've seen that so many times in a lab, man. When you're hitting it with high voltage, switch polarity on you, then it's going the wrong direction, and you're like, "What?"
Yeah, that's that was the whole entire point of the song.
Oh man, that's awesome, Joe. You did great, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of people in the chat likes it too, bro. Oh man, I gotta say something that people talk about the soul in the chat. I mean, you do realize that if the whole conversion going into our solar system started out as light, and we say we're beings of light, and we're going to return to the light. Now, whether you say it's light to plasma, and we're plasma going to turn it back, it's kind of a redundancy at that point. It's the same thing. It starts out as light, builds out the gas, plasma, all that, and then to matter, and then it'll go back in the reverse. Our soul is basically going to come out as light.
And it's all the same. It's all the same as the thing. Like whenever you have plasma in any sort of dense state whatsoever, you're gonna get the light, and with its transient dimensional shift leaves behind the heat, right? So when you take the heat from the light and then the light shifts over, it just re-enters into a quantum state of being in a wave, an uncollapsed waveform at that point. In that point of time, it's no longer in phase. It's still, so that's where the light of the plasma goes. That's what the matter goes to, is simply the light, because the light is the only thing that can exceed the frequency of the Planck scale, in that regard, because the way we look at the light scale is through a visible spectrum, a detectable spectrum. What happens when you push it off that spectrum? Same thing that happens to everything else. You push off that same exact frequency spectrum. And everything is on that frequency measurement spectrum.
Yeah. Well, when you look at the biblical stories, Joe, and you start to realize that if they're talking about that they're different than us, and then people go to the earth, right? And they're there, right? Back to the Adam and Eve story when they start talking about that. Now think of it as that little black dot we saw in the little plasma zone, right? And then the thing in the center as the sun. If the sun builds out and it builds the plasma, and it turns into a planet called Earth. And then on the other side of that, you have the black dot out there, right? It doesn't mean that it's bad or nothingness. What it's actually telling you, it's in the UV spectrum, and it's the energy exchange. So if we were angels coming down, from heaven, we would be in the black part, which is the energy exchange part. We'd come back as that energy exchange to the planet and come back as people on the planet. Then when we die and our light gets given out, we go back to the energy exchange in which we came from. I mean, it's matching plasma physics when you start to look at the way they're saying it. If you can think of it in that way, this isn't demeaning God in any way because he created everything. It simply is saying if you say that who are the fallen angels, we can all be fallen angels at this point. We can all be the ones brought down to the earth, and we were the fallen angels, and we have a chance to redeem ourselves and get back, you know what I mean, to the main source of everything.
Right.
I don't see much of a difference there.
Well, all living things, if you want to think about it, and humans in particular, right? But all living things to a certain extent, just we're a dimensional manifold.
Mhm.
And that manifold is what allows for the accumulation of very different matter, the structure around the plasmatic force in coherence with a specific plasmatic force, which is deterministic of, your form in life, which is why your body reflects that of your soul to a certain extent, and that manifold remains open as long as you're alive, and that when you pass away, well, that's indicative of that manifold closing.
That's right.
And then at that point, the plasmatic life force that is you, okay, it falls to all of the other organisms, okay, that you are made up of that have their own hyper insignificant trapped, plasmatic force as well that then becomes distributed once again, but the main channel is closed at that point, and
Yeah.
I think that that's sort of the way is to think about it as a manifold that reduces the resistance of the energy exchange within a living being, which allows for the metabolic um, processes to occur through biology, which is why we are able to transmute matter into energy, okay, through our own metabolic processes for use.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, think about it this way. There's stories about the other side. They can't do the things we can do in the physical space, right? We can interact with the environment and stuff like that. They can't. But think about it this way. What do we envy? We envy everything that you would think about an angel. Okay? They're in the light. They get to see everything. They get to know everything. It's all right there in front of them. What are they envious about us? We can interact with the environment. We live a certain lifespan. We have different emotional states because it's not it doesn't seem like it's forever. It seems like it's a small portion of time. And we experience time in a linear fashion. They don't experience time in a linear fashion at all. They experience it as abstract. So when you start to look at it, it's a mirror in itself. The way you look at the energy exchange because of what's going on. As much as we admire them, they admire us. Okay,
Well,
but we are all the same thing.
grass is always greener on the other side, right? Like
Yeah.
you want to be able to be all seeing, all knowing, and all controlling, except for the fact that once you become it, it doesn't matter because there is none. You see, and that tends to be the thing, and that's what we were talking about when we were touching on like this idea that if there are aliens or extra dimensional entities, right, like they're saying and so on and whatever it is, um, you know, that there could possibly be a jealousy of humanity. And one of the main reasons that we may never have, discovered, so to speak, or seen um, other alien forms in our solar system or beyond is simply because we're the anomaly that has both a physical being and an ethereal being simultaneously,
Hmm.
in its native form. So, there's this idea that, some aliens are aliens if you see them in a physical form. That's actually just like an avatar type, drone that is being kind of controlled by, an etheric being, you know, uh, so they could somewhat navigate through our dimension in a way that's able to be experienced,
They're great people.
in phase with the reality, right? And but the fact is, just like anything else, right? Because there's no direct connection there, there's no immersion for them. So it becomes like the equivalent of you playing like a video game on a screen. Not even as good as, not like a VR. That's better than what that analogy would be. It would be like you playing a video game on a screen at that point. It's like, even if it's so good, even if it's great, it doesn't, it's not the same as being there and doing it, and you're going to lack a lot of sensation and
Mhm.
and all that stuff. So the whole point of it being that there's we potentially are, and I believe we are, like after the likeness of somebody, and we might well be exclusive in native form.
Yeah. Well, okay, hold on. So people were talking about biology earlier, without going into the crazy stuff they get in trouble for it. And we go into meditation stuff like that. We should also realize it's not so different than building out an atom in itself. Think about it in the zoning, how things work. When you put things in resonance, you put things into harmonic resonance. That's aligning your chakra in itself. When you start to deal with the parts of the body and how they build out, and Joe always talks about the biology of things, it builds out the exact same way. I need you guys to understand that. So if you took an energetic sperm and put it in the center of an egg, what do you have? You basically have the same thing as an atom. It'll start to build out other things. It'll start to build out different nodes, right? It'll spontaneously do it, and you'll start to go, oh my God, there's a little satellite out there, which is basically just like another ball that came out of the two balls that were there, right? And then another one, another one, and it'll start to build out, and it'll start taking human form.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the same thing that the atom is doing. It's going on the same principle. We take an energetic thing, we put it in the center, and then it starts to create everything from there out around it. So it's not so different. But then we start to look at the harmonics and everything else. If you've ever been outside and saturated your eyes too far, or had a surgery to take away a part of your eye, you're going to be able to see the plasma around you. So come in after a day, your eyes are saturated, it looks dark, you can't see things clearly. Your hand, just look around it. It'll be a purple glow. Just understand that you could take certain things in your eyes and they'll cut out for cataracts, and then you'll start to see everything in that glow. Okay? We have the ability to see it. Animals see it all the time. They see all the fields around us that we don't see. That's the thing. They already know that they're there. They some of them do sonic, some of them can see it. You know what I mean? All interacting with it. That's why birds fly south for the winter. You know what I mean? Things like that go on in all of our life, because we're all surrounded by the field, but it's not a different field. It's the same field. So now you understand that. Now you can interact with the field. Now you can become part of the experiment, because now you are part of that harmonic resonance if it's at the right frequency. So when we start saying we go into a town and all the bells are chiming at the same frequency, guess what? We're in harmonic resonance with those bells. What does it do for us? Whatever it activates in our body at that point, right?
Well, so check this out. So Thomas Land said in the comments, do we attract more cosmic particles to our brains like right now? And that's, that ties right in with what you're saying about the resonance, and it's dead on point with that. But interestingly, check this out, because it goes with everything, right? When right now, well, that's dependent. Okay. The fact is that if you are either able to or are able to meditate into states of greater coherence at higher frequency levels, okay, that drastically reduces, okay, in my opinion, it drastically reduces the resistance of the energy exchange. So at that point, are you taking in a greater amount and abundance of cosmic particles at that point? Yeah, right. The exchange rate has changed. You are now getting more cosmic particles. Like whatever that might mean. Energetic force, plasmatic force, chi energy, however you want to think about it. But yeah,
Energy.
and a lot of it has to actually do with your breathing. Okay, and that goes back into biology, not medical, biology, right? So your breathing, when you have synchronization between your breath and your heart and your mind, and those are in coherence, that system basically supercharges your neural pathways, but also your entire nervous system. And that reduces the resistance of the energy exchange exponentially. And this is when you're able to start to, have different experiences with it.
Hold on, Joe. Temple of Solomon. Let's see if I got the right one. It's the one that's built out in spheres, right? Or in circles. One, the next, and next, and they go up to the sky, right? And they
Right.
say the gods knocked it down because they didn't want them to learn the secret. You you have to realize this, guys. They have a guy at Tesla Tech that's coming out this year. He took the nested circles, put them all at different heights, just like that same temple, and guess what? Pulls in Oregon energy. Okay, just understand what's going on here. That's a biblical example of something built in stone a long time ago that has a realistic, right now effect that if you go out and do it in your yard, okay, understand this. And I don't think people get it. When you put a simple pipe in the ground at this right angle, the energy comes down and hits it. It creates a resonance inside of each pipe. As you build out each one of them down from that, it changes the resonance value. You have just done it again. You have created the spherical form that the rab itself does, that atoms do, that everything else did. You just did it in a little bit of a different way. The Temple of Solomon was exactly that. That's what they built, the temple to the sky, but it's how they built it. If you look at Atlantis and you say it's built out with a center core and then a ring around it, and a ring around it, and a ring around it, guess what? We did it again. We are building out the exact same thing over and over again. They're telling us in their structures because that's how they're trying to communicate with us in what's going on. They knew it back then. That's what I'm trying to say. They're building structures based on this stuff. So what do you think kind of Oregon energy they're getting in Atlantis? What do you think they're getting in the Temple of Solomon? I mean, just start thinking about what these things mean when they start doing it. Was Tesla the first one to pull the ions out of the sky? No. The Great Pyramid did it. Get it wet, and what happens? The ions come out of the sky, go right into it, makes a great big capacitor that goes into the ground and starts putting the energy of the ions into the ground. So what does that do? It basically takes your plants and grows them 3 times as fast. It takes the dead desert and puts it into a green zone. Luscious gardens that go on inside of it. It's simple understanding of what's going on, but it's the same thing Tesla was trying to do. He was trying to recreate the Great Pyramid's effect in doing it. What does it need? It needs multiple of it. So he contacted the tower over there in France and tried to get them to run the same thing and run it right through the water table of the ocean so that he can see if he can pump the energy out of the earth. Look, this stuff isn't hard to figure out once you know what he did. That's why the hairpin circuit, Colorado experiment, that's what he did there too. Put the energy right into the water table. Why? Because the energy is different. It's in ions. It's not in electromagnetism. Why? Because it's in cold. When you go to the center of a geometry coil, it's in cold. It's in, you know what I mean, the ion form in the center of that coil. That's all it's been. On the outside, what does it do? It builds magnetic layer. That's hot. You use an entropy in order to run the system. It's going to be like an air conditioning and heating unit. Heating on the outside, air conditioning to the center.
Yeah.
Guys, it's all predictable.
I mean, okay. So here's the funny thing about how they, how they go about describing like entropy generally, right? We know that you need the 2 parts of the polarity of the duality of anything, right, to come together in order for any system to work. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. It can be north and south, or positive and negative, or hot and cold, or what.
Red on the outside, blue on the inside, and
right, exactly.
saying,
yeah. So you need the 2 sides, right? And the way that they kind of propose it is like a mixing, but that's not. That's the quiet part, okay? And the thing is that if everything is generally in a jumbled state, right, where it's a bit random, then how do you have the dualities in the first place? See, because if they were in the equilibrium state, in that mixed jumbled mess of shit, then you don't have 2 opposites in concentration to bring together to make the whole of the system. That's because these holes of the system, they organize in that fashion, in that way, based on the configuration of whatever it is. So if you're making a permanent magnet, for instance, the orientation of the material, okay, and how it held those charges in its molecular bond is the contingency that's required for the upper dimensional geometric the arrangements of the lattice structure for those energies to be held in order for the magnetism to demanifest. Um, and they arrange in exactly that way. And then when you break the magnet, okay, it just resets for the polarity to the new opposite point of the duality mark. So, everything self-organizes in that same respect.
Mhm.
So the fact that they tried to say that reversing entropy is not possible, right? Let alone not a naturally occurring thing is insane. That's where the insanity of it comes. Once you realize that you bring all of the different modes of electromagnetism, okay, into a single exchange, okay, where you have two ecosystems that are combining on all points to equal one and exchange with one another, they will naturally separate and combine and separate and combine indefinitely, acting, like I've said so many other times before, as Maxwell's demon. Where the mix occurs, the door opens, the parts go back to where they have to go, and then the separation has occurred. And you do that by keeping your opposites separate in the initial configuration. You know,
Hmm.
that's it. That's how that goes. And I don't know, man.
So check this out, Joe. There's something that people didn't understand, and I'm sure we talked about it before. When lightning hits a rock, it basically takes the ions and separates them. So basically, it takes the atoms inside of the rock and separates them out, right? So what happens to the rock? It seems hollow in certain spots now. But then when you move the rock, it rearranges itself. But then you put it back, it rearranges itself back to the hollow spot again. It's an understanding when you get to temples. So you go over to the temple, is on the History Channel, right? In Ancient Aliens, they go over there and they start hitting the side of it. It sounds like a drum, right? And they get a drum beat. They go dum 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 out of this pillar, and they said they cut it open. Nothing's different. Well, not on the level you're looking at it, but if I ran some hot electricity through there like a lightning bolt, I could separate the ions in there, right? And here's why. On the wire itself, magnetodielectric on the outside, it spins around it. The wire, ions. It's the atoms, the ions in the atoms themselves. What happens? It gives it impedance. It slows down the magnetodielectric going on, creates impedance. When it creates impedance, it creates heat. When it creates heat, it creates a magnetic field, right? That gets stronger in it. Now you'll know why copper is the way it is, because it has a high ion content. Therefore, if I find another material with a high ion content, I can make the magnetic field faster, right? But then it's slower. Do you get what I'm saying? So then I do it to aluminum, not a higher ion content, change the material, and then it'll go faster across it, but without as much magnetic field. So what do I have to do? Take the transformer, put it in mineral oil, so I can create the magnetic field that way, and I can get all the energy I want out of it. These are conversion factors that you have to get through. But if you know the ion content of the material, guess what? Life just became easy for you. Now you can see which material you want for what reason you want it to be, because of the magnetism itself is predictable. See, that's what people don't get. You could tell them, hey, I know how to do test a converter, right? And you go, well, how do you do that? I go outside and look at my power pole. They run millions of volts out there. They put it in a little bucket with a transformer in there. Mutual inductions, three phases come out of it, okay? Which means I have three things. They have mutual inductions, which means they share the B field, or the magnetic field inside of them. And how come they don't blast out everywhere? Because the actual mineral oil in that bucket confines them to that area, which compounds the amount of compression given, which gives a higher magnetic field, which gives you your AC because it's in oscillation between all three. Guess what?
Yeah,
Simple.
understanding these energy exchanges is kind of strange, because if you start to think, if you were to mark the north point of a spherical magnet, okay, and then mark the north point of another spherical magnet, and then you start rolling them around on curved surfaces and stuff where they're going to cross and interact with each other, what you're going to notice is that they don't roll straight. They do kind of like what a drift car would do. Okay, right. So rather than like a race car that's taking the bank of a turn, right, and it's just right around that bank, right, right around that bank, a drift car goes, and its front is always staying pointed in the other direction, right? The
Mhm.
direction relative to the turn. So like the rear end is actually kicking out on it. So because the pole is driving the attractive force and the repulsive force. So it's not doing this clean banking thing. Now, when you realize that the fundamental particles that build up the fields, that have the interactions, and however you want to think of it in your mind, they're all following the same exact fucking equation. Okay, so if you mark that one point on the sphere and then you put that into both rotation and orbit into something, and then have it in uh, interaction with other things doing exactly the same thing, you realize that there's huge modulation, dynamic modulation of where that dot is at any given time based on its relativity to the others in which it's in interaction with. That's really critical to understanding because it's dependent on how everything pulls together, why things fall apart, and why things build out and accumulate. You
Hmm.
know,
It's okay. They talk about those big fusion reactors and how they change the chamber.
all of it.
It's,
I mean, the fusion
it's
reactors. Are you talking about tokamaks? Because
so they instead of a donut, they started to change it with geometry, right? So it looks like a racetrack, like you were just saying. It goes fat and then it goes skinny and then it turns this way and then it'll turn back the other way and get fat and skinny.
well, so you get like a Mobius strip sort of deal.
Yes.
But now here's the deal with with the Mobius. Okay, is that now they're once again forcing a path of something that will fall into that exact configuration naturally. That's the thing. It will fall into it naturally under the right conditions. Set the right conditions and stop forcing the track. Stop building the road. Let it build the road. That's the
Well,
point.
it's why I tell you they don't understand resonance properly, Joe. If they did, they would have already realized this is resonance as DC as a volume and then AC as the compression factor. Okay? They don't understand resonance properly. And because they don't, they build these weird, funky looking things to try to take advantage of something that builds up naturally. So, yeah, no, we get it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. No, I thought it was actually kind of funny, and the description was perfect because it does look like a drift car when you start looking at the fields that they built. Because it's funny because it does look like it goes up, drifts, hits, and then comes back down and then drifts. And what that is basically resonance hitting its peak, coming back down, coming back up and hitting its peak, and then coming back down, hitting its peak. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
When you
Because
pull apart a Rodin spiral, it's the same. You'll see that interaction. If
oh
you
yeah,
eliminate the multiple lines, just leave it at two, you'll see that every motion that this one is making is
mhm.
relativistic to that motion inversely at all times. It becomes difficult to see that when it's multiple windings, if it's a coil, or multiple lines, if it's a diagram.
Okay,
Difficult
hold
to
on.
see. But when you see it in two, you realize exactly what it's doing. It's just every time one shifts out, it starts to repel, but then it starts to attract again, starts to pull back in. That one starts to repel, starts to pull back in. And they're in a chase that will never result in a collision because it's in a locked equilibrium state. That's the point. It's not really an equilibrium exactly, but it's a way to think about it because it's in a stable state, right? And stability is what everything wants. Above, because it can't reach stillness. Okay, stability is the best it could ask for most of the time, and then therefore it falls into that state of stability, which is that locked state of repulsion and attraction and to then be repelled, and it's all because of this drifting turn of the poles. Because if you ignored that, you would just think at some point they're going to attract and bang together, and you'd be right, but that's if you don't take this into consideration, where the spin is rolling, where the point, the North Pole, if you want to call it that, of the point is relative.
Well, let me make this point. When ions combine, they make the magnetodielectric. When the magnetodielectric breaks, it makes the ion. Just understand the exchange there. So it's a repeating pattern, right? So you go into one zone, okay, and basically you start out as a pure E field on the inside, so you got the pure ions, and then it goes up, and then what does it do? It gets into a point where all the pressure in there creates heat on the outside. The heat on the outside puts the two together, combines them. What does it do? Makes magnetodielectric right there. What does it do then? Once it builds out the zone, it builds a barrier, goes on to the next level. What do you start getting at the next level? It begins in heat again, right? But then it builds out and it starts to break apart, and the ions come apart towards the top. And when you realize that, you now have an exchange again, right? So it continues to build the exchange out. That's why they say it in that way. But that's exactly what it's doing. So I'm not arguing that point. It's perfectly doing that as long as you see it in that direction. The ion didn't come out of nowhere. The ion was the original form of the energy, okay? But they didn't call it that. They wanted to call it something different. Also, we were talking about the resonance and stuff, but people aren't realizing this, Joe. It's a sphere that's built out on both sides with basically this going into the spiral. So if you've ever seen a goblet, right? Or I don't know what it says. If you want to talk about the chalice that Jesus drank out of or whatever, and you go look at all the ones that are in the churches, right? Here's what you're going to see. A big ball in the center.
Yeah.
You're going to see this at the top and this at the bottom, okay? And it builds out exactly like that. They were trying to tell you the same thing in there. See, this is a secret that's going on in the church. They knew all the secrets. They wanted to preserve them. Therefore, it's in all of their stuff that they build out. The RAV, everything is completely transferable over in every picture we've ever seen, and it shows up in everything they do inside the church, and you can see it. We saw the same thing, right? We saw the chalice, okay? Same thing. We saw that in plasma. We see it when they build it out. They build the ball in the center, the funnel at the top, the funnel at the bottom. Not a problem. You want to say geometry coil? Okay. What do you think Jesus' crown looked like? The thorn of crowns. What did it look like? It's a geometrical pattern that's going on in there. It's the same exact thing. Okay. If I were to go over there in Jesus' time and wear the wire on the top of my head, they probably think it's a torture device and that I was doing a good thing of hurting myself, right? They wouldn't realize what it was trying to do. It was trying to bring the ions back to the center again. So was it something that's bad? Maybe in that instance it was, because it was a torture device, but maybe it's the same thing. Maybe he wore a crown like that all the time, and they were just giving him one that looked like it. Look, there are so many crossovers when it comes to the energy and all the biblical stuff. They're hiding it in plain sight. There's a reason why there's a number, a dot, and a number in the Bible. It's not page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's, you know what I mean? This and this ratio for this reason, for what's going on in that chapter to build out to something else that's going on in the energy exchange itself.
Yeah.
It's right in your face and you just didn't know how to decode it. I'm telling you right now, you know, we looked at a lot of this stuff, man. And I go through history all the time, Joe. I love history and I love looking at things. And I can tell you right now, as soon as we start looking at it, I can point it out. Even when we look at the Boogosphere, right? These things were actually high voltage experiment patterns, okay? And you could point them out. The other ones are Sanskrit. That's why not all of them look like they belong to the same language. And as soon as you understood that, and if you understood the thing as what it was, and it's supposed to create anti-gravity or gravity itself, you can pick out those features that are actually in high voltage, and you can restart this thing. Not hit it with magnetism where you screw up the field of ions in the center by pulling them.
Yep.
Not doing all this other stupid stuff you're doing. Just hit the right buttons and turn the thing on.
I mean, that's another thing dogmatic that they wave in your face, and most people don't ever take the time to think about is even you look at like portraiture of Jesus and stuff like that, or any saint, right? You'll see that they use mudras, right?
Hmm.
Right, depending on the circumstance, right? They use different mudras. I mean, what that all does is it connects literal energy pathways in a circuit in your body. Okay, and the trick is, right, gnosis, right? Gnosis meaning the knowledge of. And it tends to be that if you do that and you know, right? So it's conjunctive. You do that and you know, then the benefit comes, right? You could know and not do it and it does nothing, or you could do it and not know it, it does nothing. But if you do it and you know and you consciously do it and you're consciously aware, all of a sudden there it goes and it works. But the fact that that's so often depicted, um, in all religious art across the ages, from times before Jesus, even, it should really say a lot. And why we never really talk about those sorts of things in those contexts, or why I went to, religious education for God, 7 or 8 years or however long I had to go to that for, how they never bring this up, not one time, is, is
Crazy.
kind of crazy. Right.
Yeah, they
How
should have.
significant that is. And nobody talk about what he's doing with his hands and why they're always in a different shape. He's always doing something with his hands.
Yeah,
Always. You'll never see a depiction of Jesus where he does nothing with his hands.
yeah. No, I think it's funny because they read the Bible in the wrong way. It's, how do I say this? When I always say he walked Jesus' path, what did he do? You see, this is the same way you got to approach doing an experiment. What was happening? What was going on? What was the result? Who did he talk to? What did he see? What did he do? So you start to look at that and you go, he didn't care who you were or what you did. He brought you in and fixed you and helped you in any way that he could. And he made you a better person for it when he was done. Then it spread the word. That's what they scared. That's what made them scared. Every last one of them got scared because if they can't separate you and make you hate everybody around you, they can't control you. You are more than them. Okay? They have to have a measure of control, and he got rid of that. That's the problem. That's why they had to get rid of him.
Yeah.
Because he just didn't care who you were. He brought you into the inner circle and said, look, I'm going to treat you like an equal. And that was it. That's why I say walk his path, because for those who are out there trying to say, oh, no, I need to kill people for this reason or that reason, Jesus didn't have a day of that in his heart. Not ever. That's what they misunderstand. It just didn't happen. So you may have that and you're in the wrong. He never did. These are people who interpreted things to give you rules. That's why they cut down the books. I mean,
yeah. So Z Jalapeno saying, "Kingdom of God is within you," and you know what? I mean, that's probably the best thing on the subject matter. Honestly, that could be said, because that's the one thing that ties it right into the physics. Okay, is that it is, to expand beyond, to escape outward, you must first look and go inward. And it is the implosion before the explosion.
Yeah.
And, when you look at like Ashton's orbs, right, you see the collapse before the expansion, before the collapse. Okay. But it's the collapse first. And it's the same exact thing, just simply across the board. When you do meditation, everything comes to a point before everything becomes fully expanded in meditation. So everything comes and consolidates, and then all of a sudden comes back out and expands to vastness that you normally wouldn't experience just in life, and you can sense that. And this is what we see in the experiments all the time too. When we see the rad forming for the first times, right? When it was doing the slow buildup, you'd see it reaching out, you'd see it growing out, then you'd see it consolidating in, you'd see it sweeping parabolically, gaining its dimension. Then you'd see the rotational force come in, and every so often, yeah, you'd see it pop, and blow out. But before it blows out, it always pulls in. It'll always get dense and tight before it goes out. And so that's it. Kingdom of God within us? Absolutely. Because the only way to get to the kingdom of God is from within. And the same thing with all this. The only way to cross over the pressure barrier of the fourth dimension into the fifth, is, to do exactly that. To go inward, to go out. Got to be small to go big.
By the way, Joe, you do realize in this episode, we explained how Astion's orbs work.
Oh, of course. We do every episode. It's funny,
Well, it's more specific than that. Like, if you realize everything has a field around it, and you realize that aluminum, especially aircraft aluminum itself, pushes the field out further, and then you realize everything's in resonance with it, and you pick a certain area where you want the resonance to go. You basically run an ion beam to it, fill it up in there, and it basically will create the node for you. It will literally fill it up on the inside so that you're forcing the magnetic field to form around it and create that actual thing, right? But then we went deeper into that. We said, okay, if you're doing that in the center of its pure energy right there, and that's the ion field in the core of it, what happens when you get past the state where it cannot create equilibrium? It forces it into a dimensional state on the other side. What did we see it go? It forced it into a dimensional state on the other side because you created one too many orbs out there that it had to be in sequence with, so it created that dimension that, boom, pulled it right out. Exactly the same way we describe it is exactly what happened. And it's understandable when you understand the U.S. has beam weapons that can essentially do exactly what I just said.
Yeah, that was our big thing from day one when, because we came on together right around the time that Ashton started really hyping this shit. Like he might have been talking about it a little bit before, but I don't think many people were paying much attention then, and he didn't really have a ton of content out. But when we really started hitting on it from day one, it was like no matter what theory was posed today or what evidence or whatever, it all came back to Bearden's video in '85, man. And we said that from day one. We knew about scalar collapse, and reconstitution of energy at a distance, by all you have to do is interact entangled, entangled propagation that's in a scalar collapse. We also knew that was the same technology they were using in F-18 Growlers, during their electronic warfare campaigns and stuff to a lesser extent. Because they're not putting out multiple field propagation to have cross sections of that at a distance. They're capturing somebody's radar, condensing it, canceling it out, sending it back, return to sender, like Bearden said, send it back where it came from, or redirect it. Well, they don't redirect it. They got the enemy's signal. All they have to do is send it right back to them in a condensed form and dump it. And all it's going to do is overload their entire, electronics and fry everything, burn it to pieces. That's it.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, when you land a helicopter and everything looks like it's coming at you, okay, at a super speed, but the people inside are moving at a regular speed, that's time dilation for you, okay? So as they go in there on this chopper, they're going to Venezuela, they're pulling a time dilation field, and they're blowing bullets out, taking everybody out before they even hit the ground, okay? Look, We have these things going on in our military. They knew exactly what it was and how to manipulate it. There's no question. It started with the stealth airplane. When they're out there and they're creating an energy field around it to remove the inertia, they already were doing it. Okay. And that was what? They created that thing in the 60s or 70s, something like that. They had it well before them. Skunk Works is way beyond where we think they are. Let me just tell you that. Everything you think that is an alien ship probably came from them. They're way beyond what you think because it's predictable. Energy keeps working in the same way, and they knew that. It's not a surprise that you can get something to reduce the inertia on your plane, and then, oh, what's the next step? Things are starting to disappear. Things are built in triangles. Things are built in, UFO shapes because they start to build things in the environmental condition they're in. You start to see crafts that landed on the ground. What are they in? Aluminum, bismuth, aluminum. Inside is a Faraday cage. On the outside, you're getting your diamagnetic and you're getting your magnetic. It's very simple. This all spells out the same thing. The outside's built as a transistor, so it picks up more energy as soon as it goes, which goes into why some of the things on the inside of the boogosphere turn out to be a battery because the outside feeds the inside. Why would you bring light into a situation like that in fiber optics? Because light converts into pure energy in the core. I mean, this isn't hard science to figure out once you understand the exchange rate. You're just looking at it going, well, what is it? Okay? It's literally when you want to go from an electrical field to a magnetic field, the exchange rate is, I think, 2.4. It takes 2.4 volts to make the magnetic side of the field, okay, to the amp. When you go to volts to amps, 2.4 is what the conversion rate is. That means that you must couple something in there in order to make that magnetic field, which is the exact thing they tell you in physics and how you get an ion. The ion is the decoupling of the magnetic field, and then you get back to the ion, right? Dude, this is so simple. Like, it literally writes itself at this point. And I think that was the whole point of the code is when they write a code, and that's why they always talk about it being in a matrix, is because the code's writing itself in a self-evolving nature to bring everything back to equilibrium. That's why they feel it's a matrix, because everything looks that way. But
Hey, Nathan, since we got Dead Fish here,
yeah, go for it.
I'm gonna run and get a couple of my mine finds, and I'll give him a little quartz porn.
Oh, do it.
I know.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. You've been doing this as long as we have. You've seen a lot of this stuff. And the funny thing is you go back and look at the papers. Just realize this. I just need to tell you this. I don't read physics papers, guys. I do experiments. But when the experiments start to match the physics papers coming out of something, like the Navy, or you start to look at any kind of UFO research and stuff like that, the boogosphere, and you get to Greer and he starts to describe what anti-gravity is, and it matches exactly what I'm saying, understand that I'm doing the experiments to do it to get there. I didn't read their papers. I don't need to. Okay? But then things match up, which means they must have done the same experiments. And if I can do it in under 3 years, they could have done it a lot sooner than that with a lot more people, working on it. Yeah, they had it all right. They have it now. They had it then. They're going to continue to have it. So it's not going to change anything. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. The whole disclosure thing, if they come out with that, and I'm kind of excited for the movie, guys, when it comes out here, I think in the next few weeks. If we have aliens out there, bring it on. I'm sorry, guys, I'm just not scared. Bring it on. It'll explain a whole lot. Okay? If they're real, walk them out. Okay? I'd love to meet them. Okay? I'd love to sit down and have a conversation with them. Be the greatest conversation I've probably ever had. I don't think anybody's worried about that. Yeah, you get people in shocks and weird, stupid people doing stupid things. Dude, you get that when the stock market changes. You know what? We've all seen Star Trek. Get over it. You know what I mean? Little green men, walk them out. Okay? We'll go over there and measure dicks or something. Okay? I don't know. We'll figure it out. I don't think we really care. Look, we know there's more evolved species than us. Great. The point about the human race is we go on and we learn what they do and then we do it better. That's what the human race does. We're evolving fast. That's the whole point of the human race. So guess what? Got an alien out there? Good. Let's see what they are, see what they could do. We'll be way ahead of them in no time. Go ahead, Joe.
All right, let's see what I got. I got this guy.
That thing's big. Nice
Yeah.
color.
Yeah, it's got a little gold in there from rust. Well, I could actually get that out if I wanted to, but yeah, that's a pretty nice one. I always forget where my camera is. And it's got this cool key side, but I didn't find what went with it, so I don't know.
Hold on. Turn back to the other side with the speckle so we could get a little closer.
Yeah, that side's where it kind of made a little contact with the anthraxolite or whatever they call it. It's basically some hydrocarbon.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And the other side's got that nice strip in there. Look at that. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And it's complete. So that's pretty nice. Well, got a whole handful of these guys. The standards. Those are pretty nice though.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Check this out. It's got a little, it looks like a castle.
Oh yeah, it's got a little side castle to it, doesn't it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's really, really clear, really, really nice that piece. I found one kind of like it without the little castle side. Not that big. That's a nice piece too.
Very cool.
Well, yeah, this one was pretty big, but this one was like attached to a whole bunch of shit. So it's kind of like got these pock marks in there for where it like hooked up to the piece of stone, whatever. But here, check this one out. This is probably the nicest one that I found. Like not size wise, but like as far as being perfect. This thing is about almost an inch and a half. And look at that.
Look at that. Oh, that's so cool.
Oh yeah, it's perfect. The guy who owns the mine was saying this little stone's probably like $750.
Really?
So, just because you know what, to find it that big and perfect, and also like a good shape. See how it's a rhombus?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not a single flaw.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I have a whole bunch like that too. I have a whole bunch of them, but without going through my whole entire situation, these two same exact situation.
Oh, there you go.
So, you know, and those are just a little bit smaller, but they're still really kind of a big size. Yeah, but yeah, probably that one. Shit, dropping other things. Got that one.
Oh yeah. Look at that thing.
That's a boy right there. This thing's like 4.5, 5 pounds.
Oh wow. Dude, that side of it, they get super flat, don't they? That's like it looks almost milled.
Okay. We'll talk about that because this is the lattice structure, okay? These build out 6, 6, and 6. 6 facet faces on the bottom, middle, and top for 18 facets. And the way that quartz builds, it only builds in flat planes. Okay, in those denominations of 6. So the angles that all these things meet at, right? All those angles could be different. It's just depending on where each plane meets at that specific axis point, because every side has to be perfectly flat down to the molecular level.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's why all these edges are wildly sharp, like perfectly sharp. And now you can look at them with a loop and never find where they meet, unless if they're chipped.
Huh.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, but it's a big old chunk of Herkimer diamond, bro. You know, and I got a few of them like that at this point.
Oh, wow.
Evidently, I have a knack for finding them and pulling them out. So, I
Well, that's
also
crazy.
break
Hold
my neck
on.
to get those things, which
Hold
is
on. That says 666, Joe. That's crazy.
that's what it is. 666.
Okay. We have to look into that a little more because that's kind of a crazy number. You know what I mean? And the implications of what that number is. So, what is it really? That's so cool. Yeah. You know what? I love that show, Stargate. By the way, it pissed me off that they canceled the series because it wasn't woke enough. Man, I fucking hate that kind of bullshit.
They stopped doing that shit.
Just make it old school. You know what I mean? Have the same writers make and write the same thing in the next level of it, so we can all enjoy it. And give the double barrels to those moron woke people who need to shut the fuck up and let us enjoy our Stargate.
Right on.
You know what? No more queer fucking Klingons either. Okay, I don't need that shit. Take your Starcat Academy and go away too. And let's enjoy our stuff we like. Okay, go over and fucking make your own shit somewhere else. Okay, don't fuck up ours. Okay, get sick of that shit. You know what? We want to see it. We want to see it in a certain way, and then that's it. Okay, that's it. We love the history of it. We love the fun show. We love the adventure. We want to keep the same thing with it. If you don't like it, sell it to somebody else who will do that and get out of the way. God, frustrating. Sorry. That's what happens when you start canceling shows that I want to see. And then, you know what? I'm glad you didn't make it like the freaking Stones of Time or whatever, that Hands of Time, where that stupid chick got on that stupid horse and it looks like she's getting off on it. Yeah, I don't need to see that crap anymore. You take that one back. I don't want it. I want to see old school stuff, the old school way. You know what I mean? Heck, I'll go sit in the theater for another Schwarzenegger movie. He can see sitting there with a walker, and I'll go watch him because it's the same thing. He's like, no, we do it this way. You know what I mean? And we're like, oh, okay, that works for me. I just not into this garbage they keep coming out with.
I don't
Sorry.
know. They've done away with so much good stuff. Remember when they killed Roseanne over wokeness?
Yeah.
Terrible.
Oh, man. It's like right now, we're all excited, and maybe it's just me, to see the new Avengers thing, right? That they're coming out with. And we're just crossing our fingers going, oh my God, please flush the last 2 years of the crap down the toilet. Please do not use any of that content. Please stick with the original people and the original, things, and let it be that. And we're all just crossing our fingers, you know what I mean? Please take Miss Marvel and give her 2 lines and shut her up. We don't need to talk to her either. I mean, God, man. This is what old people get to do. We get to bitch and sit at the TV and bitch because we like watch certain shows and get excited about it.
Lots of time to complain.
Yeah.
Lots of time to complain.
It's like, fuck, man, I watched The Fall Guy when I was a kid, right? You get all excited. And then Heather Thomas was, wow. But now you get into this new one, and the guy that played Barbie was the Fall Guy. Dude, he needed to get into another accident, is what he needed to do, and leave my screen. Okay? He's not the Fall Guy. You got Lee Majors playing it, and then you got this big drop off to this dude. God, stop making this stupid garbage. And Barbie, the freaking Ken doll. Ken doll. Now he's the Fall Guy. No, he's not. Oh, frustrating.
Get your panties in a bundle over there, old man.
I enjoy certain stuff, Joe. That's it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not going to be around forever. Just make it the way I want it.
Yeah, tell me about it. All right. When you get old, it's like, yeah, the sex life starts to taper off a little bit, and then you get fat and can't eat all the food you want to eat. That's like, what? Goddamn, cancel my fucking television show. Just send me to the goddamn euthanasia booth. Crying out.
Yeah. It's just taking everything from me.
All right, next thing is you're gonna make me trade my diesel for an electric truck. Then like
I can see why so many people were pissed off that they canceled Andy Griffith. You know what I mean? It was just their thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, let me go get an electric truck, and it spies on me. By the way, that basically has cameras inside the cab that look at you and tell you when you're drunk and can't drive. They tell you when you're off on your medication and can't drive. They take electric sensors that sense everything in your body.
There's no way that's going to be constitutionally approved. Like, I mean,
but they did it. They're already tracking your vehicle. They got a GPS in every new truck.
All right, I love this. I had this conversation with a friend of mine, and he was like, "This is an incredible conversation." I just had it with him the other day. Right? You know how like these idiot sovereign citizens, like they'll drive without a license or a license plate, and then they when they get pulled over, they're like in some state of shock that they're being pulled over, and the cops always like, "Bro, just fucking enough, get out of the vehicle. Now you're under arrest." And then they show them in court and they argue these things, and they're all just super idiots, like and have no fucking idea. But what I came about was like realizing, I'm like, there is some legitimacy to what they're saying, but like the way that they're doing it is really bad. But I was like, but even the legitimacy, I was like, I don't really know where I asked the question, where did we go wrong with this? Where you need a license and a registration to drive a car when you have you do have the right to travel. And that tends to be the thing. And this is when I realized something. Okay. And they really fucked us. And we had a chance then to say something and nobody did. Mm-hmm. Okay. But you see, you used to have a registration for a wedding. For a wedding. Okay. But not the what. Get it? You used to have a registration, but what didn't you need a registration for?
The horse. For the horse. Yeah.
For the horse. Right? But here's the thing about that. You get on the horse and ride the horse, but without the horse, you can't pull the wagon. See? All right. So when they came out with a motor vehicle, they looked at it as a wagon.
Yeah,
and all we had to say was, this is not a wagon, it's a horse. That's it. That's all we had to do. And it'd have been like, the argument could have been made then, and they'd have been like, well, you're right, a wagon doesn't move in onto itself, and you have the right to travel. The horse has the right to travel. The horse doesn't need a tag, and neither does your fucking car. And if you want to make that argument, well, you know what does a wagon do? It carries you as the horse, pulls you. Okay, cool. Then why do motorcycles need them? Oh, because motorcycles needed them after cars. So they said, oh, this is another type of motor vehicle that already requires a registration. So does that. But you see, this is how they got us. It was the only way
they do e-bikes. They're going to do the e-bikes soon.
Yeah, I mean, they already kind of did, because if it is capable of reaching certain specifications, whether or not in certain modes, they're already considering them motorcycles if they go over 25 miles an hour.
Okay, yeah, see?
So, and then if they pull you over, they'll say that you're riding an unregistered, uninsured motorcycle, and they'll ticket you for that.
Mm-hmm.
And insurance looks at it that way. They'll deny your claims, appropriately for it being motorcycle medical, which is different than auto medical.
So they've been doing this sneaking shit in. This is why they have the cameras, Joe, because they've been sneaking in these stupid laws, and we haven't been fixing them enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you go over there and they go, okay, you could sell somebody a service instead of selling them a product, right? They screwed us on that one big time. Now you go to get into your CAD program, and now it's got to be online, and it's got to be everything, and you got to go over there and give them some head, and then they let you in, right?
Right, and you can't use it without their new shit updates and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. So, and then the car thing, right? You get back to that. Okay, but what is it going to be? They put the camera in there and say it's for safety, right? They already did it when they give you those little things to plug into the computer of your car. Oh, if you're a good driver, you get discounts. Nobody's a good fucking driver. I've never plugged one of those things into my car.
Yeah.
But that,
Oh my God! Please, I heard my insurance company had asked me at several points to put one
yeah,
of those in. I was like, yeah, thanks, no thanks.
yeah,
But
not a
then,
chance in hell.
but then you know what they do? Then they just rate you at the highest tier that, like,
Oh yeah,
as if you're driving like a fucking shitbag drunk lunatic.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So damned
then,
if you do, damned if you don't. You know.
but then they're going to do the same thing with the new cars. My truck doesn't have a camera, and I'm not going to put one in it. You know what I mean? But the new trucks are going to have it, so they're going to be private eyes for everything. And then guess what happens? Okay, anything happens outside your truck, truck's going to record it and tell on you. Okay, you don't get away with anything anymore. Traffic lights that tell on you. Everything tells on you. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, it used to be if the cop didn't see it, it didn't happen. Okay.
See, I think what they need to address in the Supreme Court, like immediately, is these third-party cameras, because
Yeah.
that's the biggest shitbag move I've ever heard of in my life that hasn't been formally and fully contested all the way to the Supreme Court. Because realistically, as police officers, you only have access to information in which you know that you have a probable cause in order to obtain.
Yeah.
Right now, they have these companies paying other companies to put their cameras on their property, and then selling subscription services to law enforcement to have full access to all of their spyware database, because the police are not allowed to spy on you. But the police get to say, but we're not spying on them. They're spying on them, but they're legally doing so because it's public property and you're allowed to be recorded and we're allowed to collect your data as long as it's visible in public. And even though we're not allowed to surveil like that, they are, because they're not a government entity and don't owe you rights, but they're also willing to give us access to it. So, hey, so we use it.
Yeah. The same thing did social media.
Yeah. Fun. That needs to be stopped right away.
Right, dude, I'm there with you.
It should be nationally inadmissible. Just put the case law on the board right away that basically any utilization of that data at any point during an investigation, or even access by a member of your service into those subscriptions, automatically would find a case, untriable. It wants to go away immediately, because then they won't be able to get a single conviction.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Joe, speaking of old people and old things, I got a subscription service to get rid of my commercials. And then my subscription service says, pay a higher amount, we're going to give you commercials anyway. So then I go, well, what the fuck am I paying this subscription service for? Okay. Not only did you go from 24 episodes a season, you went down to 8. Now I have to pay you for commercials. I'm paying you to let me watch commercials.
Well, they slipped it in. They already had you. They know you already canceled your fucking cable 3 years ago. You get it? Like, that was the thing. Oh, well, we could make a little bit of money up front, but in the end, a lot. We just need everybody to cancel their cable, because once they cancel their cable, they're never going to buy their cable back.
Are you kidding me? That's the one thing I am buying back. I can't stand this stuff, man. I hate doing this stuff all the time. And you know what pisses me off more than that? And not only are you paying them, but now they ask you, oh, can you confirm your password again? Can you do this again? Fuck no. Maybe I'm sitting there in my bed jerking off and I want to go put my fucking password in, dude. Like shit like that just pisses me right off. It's like, I may not be doing that, but dude, it's seriously, quit asking. Shut the fuck up. Just work. Be a stupid piece of machine that just works. I don't fucking want your code. I don't want your update. Shut the fuck up and work. Just all I want.
Just simply function, damn it. Just simply function.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, man. No, that's a real bitch. It really is. Oh.
I can't stand it, Joe. It's like every 5 minutes it keeps asking me for more passwords, and you see me. It's the only time I start screaming and yelling in my house because my stuff doesn't work. It's like I want to turn it on, it works, then I turn it off. I do not want you asking me questions for updates. And don't ask me to validate things through 5 different things because I probably didn't understand the phone in the first place.
It's gonna get weird, and it's gonna get weird soon. And I'm gonna tell you why I think. Okay, because my prediction is that 15 years from now, okay, Hollywood as you know it today, and or any movie or TV show production company is okay. They're fucked because basically, if you're a famous likeness, okay, sell your likeness rights right fucking now for 5, 10 years in the future. Sell it right now for a premium price. Because here's the deal, everything, a schmuck like me with, let's say, $10,000, if I had $10,000, okay, I could sit there and make a full-blown ass movie 5 years from now. Like Hollywood quality, edited, special effects, sound, Atmos, this HD, the whole 9 yards, with totally fresh-faced characters that are exactly what you want them to be. Don't have a bad fucking attitude. Aren't getting paid $10 million to show up, plus royalties. Okay, everything under the sun. Have a totally custom soundtrack that totally kicks ass. And I could make that for probably less than 10 grand 5 years from now, and then fucking sell it to movie theaters the same as anybody else.
Yeah.
And that's going to really change things, because what that means is that, like, people are going to sell their content.
Yeah.
People are going to invest their money. People are going to sell their content. They're not going to need any cameras. They're not going to need any equipment. They're not going to need any actors. All they're going to need is basic writing and editing skills, the ability to be able to put something worthwhile together.
Yeah.
And that's it. And they're fucked. And the only thing that any of these actors and actresses will have value-wise against that is going to be their likeness, their personality, their voice. And if they're smart, like if you're fucking Al Pacino, dude, you're like 89 years old. Sell your likeness from your entire life. Young Al Pacino, middle-aged Al Pacino, old Al Pacino, and in all the roles and personalities, okay? And then bind that likeness to something, where now only one person can utilize that likeness, except under license. You see? So now somebody else holds licensing rights for that particular actor's likeness. So that way you could still have your favorite actors in your movies. You see what I mean?
There you go. Oh yeah.
And you could have middle-aged Al Pacino in 2029. You can have 35-year-old Al Pacino. You see what I mean? Like in your movie. Acting like Clawface.
I want to say thank you to Darren real quick, man. Thank you for the super sticker, brother. I appreciate it, man.
Right on, dude. Membership, super sticker, you're the man.
You know what, Joe? They couldn't do it earlier because of that lawsuit with Back to the Future.
What was that lawsuit? I don't even know.
The original Back to the Future, Biff. No, not Biff, the other guy. The dad character that was in there.
Mm-hmm.
They took his likeness to number 2 and overlaid it over another guy's face. So he went back and sued them for that, for using his likeness in the film. So that's why they couldn't do what you're saying right now, rip people off right now. That's why the actors are winning the lawsuits. But if he didn't do that lawsuit, they'd all be screwed right now with AI way faster.
Oh, yeah. But, okay. So the thing about it is that also carved out the niche for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But all I got to say is you better be damn good and damn memorable and an icon, because if not, nobody wants you.
No, I understand.
Right. You have to be Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Which they already take his likeness, and you know what I mean? Just look at the Terminator movies, and they make different versions of them all the time. Of young Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yo, listen, we could have Arnold Schwarzenegger Christmas movies like Jingle All the Way,
That was a good movie.
right until I'm 85 years old, and that dude's already in the ground. You know,
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
pretty cool, kind of cool.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not gonna lie.
yeah. Oh, dude, Bernie Mac, the Bernie Mac show.
Yo, bring it back,
That thing was awesome, bro. Bernie Mac is the man, dude.
Bernie Mac.
I love that special he did. I ain't scared of you motherfuckers. He keeps doing it again. Oh, it was fucking amazing.
Yo,
So-
right. Yo, who wouldn't want like early 2000s Dave Chappelle or Chris Rock?
Oh,
Or,
man.
like, you know what I mean? Who wouldn't want that?
The Chappelle show is just
To sit there and
freaking
just
hilarious.
have free reign. And you know, like if you're smart and you want your legacy not to be shit, you know, like you add restrictions as to what your person will ever, you know, be
Oh,
able
so
to
kids
do or
can't fuck
not.
it up. Yeah.
And then if you die, it would have to go into a trust, you know, as far as like, okay, are they going to take on that role or not? You know,
Yeah. Oh, my God.
that's going to be the future of it because, but like I said, all these second, third rate friggin' actors and stuff, and all this bullshit, and all this money, and all this high level production, and blah, it's gone, man. Yo, you think the guy at McDonald's is screwed? They're way more fucked than the person at McDonald's, you know. So
Well, just look at
Hold on
the
to the
music
bag.
industry. As soon as the rappers started sampling music, you lost all the good musicians. You know what I mean? They're dying off now. They were all 80 years old, still performing because we didn't have anybody to replace them. You know what I mean? They sample way too much now, and half the music's garbage because it's not personal anymore. It's all reruns. So yeah, they do all that stuff.
yeah, it is true.
Half baked. Dude, some of these movies are funny. Like
Yeah.
Pineapple Express or
Yo, so good. This is now throws them into a sink. You know, probably the best part. I laugh so hard.
oh, dude. Like I still watch the Euro Road Trip too. That was one of my favorites right there.
Oh yeah.
Vinny Jones in there anytime because he's always Vinny Jones in every movie. He always is. It's always fun to watch him. And he's over there, and they're at the soccer with the hooligans. You know what I mean? And he starts singing that song for him. He goes, "My baby rides the morning train." It's so awful of a song, and they go drinking with him the whole night, start talking and cussing in different ways and say it in English. Hilarious, bro. I love that movie.
Awesome. Yeah, but I think that's the future of that. And you know, what's that mean for entertainment? What's that mean for the subscription services? Does that mean that guys like me or you or the next guy that wants to commit to something like that, maybe, like, does that mean that we have a Netflix series? Or does that mean that we say, yo, Netflix could go suck a fatty and I'm just gonna have my own subscription if you're interested in my particular show, and for your $3 a month you get my series. You know, or for $10 a series you get the season.
But they're already doing that, Joe.
I'm
The
saying,
men-
but this is
members
going to be
on
the
the
next
channel, things
the
like
next
that.
phase of it. It's the next phase.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, it's going to get worse. That's the point.
It's like Back to the Future in reverse when they were in there, and it was I think the second one when you walk into the house and they were telling you about your subscription services. You know what I mean? Things like that. Yeah, it's the same thing.
No.
We are screwed, dude. Oh my god, my grandkids are gonna be in all of this stuff when I'm in the ground, bro. Like I'm gonna have to deal with it at the end, cussing at the TV, telling my grandkids to turn it on. You know what I mean? And just have the stupid thing work. I'm gonna like invest in a stupid TV that just basically turns on and off and functions,
Mhm.
and then I can plug in all the garbage to it, and then plug it and throw it away. I hate smart TVs.
Aaron saying Tyler Oliveira. Yep, he got chased out of Israel. He got chased out of Israel simply because he chased some Hasidic Jews around Brooklyn, like asking them, like, "So what's your deal?" You know, He's like, so what about this tunnel thing? What happened there? Tyler Oliver is straight balls. He goes into some bullshit situations and puts himself like not knee deep in it, like he puts himself like chin deep in it, and he's like, I know one little wave going right over my head, gonna splash me with doo-doos in the face. But yeah, he straight up went to Israel. He got off the plane. He was about to go where he's gonna go. He already made the trip. He's there, through customs basically, and they're like, "Excuse me, sir, you come with us." It's like, son of a bitch. And then Israeli National Defense, it's like sitting there like, you are anti-Semitic, and he's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" He's like, "Wait a second, I'm anti-Semitic because I did a documentary on Hasidic Jews." What?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Oh my god.
Ridiculous.
That just brings up Legos. Have you seen that controversy?
Yeah, dude, that was some bullshit, man.
Yeah.
That was bullshit. They're coming out with all sorts of stuff now that they're trying to say, but guess what? They just robbed that guy is what they did.
Oh, they did.
They're trying to sidebar this whole idea that they didn't take over this guy's franchise for the sole purpose of acquiring that collection.
Well, he didn't have a franchise. He just had a collection, and he
no,
was allowing them to sell it.
The store that he consigned it with was a franchise.
Oh yeah.
And corporate took over the franchise to hijack the collection.
Yeah, and they straight up stole it.
Yeah.
And you know what? The guy was caught. Best thing he could have done was save face and say, right away, hey, here you go. But no, 200 grand was worth more to him than his whole soul. So you know what? Sold it right down the hill, and now he's getting all the freaking bullshit he deserves. And I hope they shut every one of his stores down. You know what I mean?
I agree. For what it's worth, I mean, if you're an adult man and you shop at a store called Bricks and Mini Figs, like, I'm sorry, but like, I'm gonna need your testicles sent to my address. I mean, I don't want them.
Just say that. Those are collectibles.
Listen, I have no problem with the store, and Legos are cool, but fucking minifigs? What fag figured that one out? Who on the board? Who on the board, Nathan, was like, you know what, we should put on a sign in front of hundreds of stores? Minifigs. Like, get the fuck out of here with that.
Dude, they're just collectibles, Joe. That's all they are, is they're collectibles. That's funny.
You're minifigs. You're minifigs.
Right now, there's somebody out there collecting the commercial stuff for Bud Light. No. They're out there collecting it right now. All the cans for Bud Light. They came out with that girl on there, or the man. I don't know what you say. They're collecting all of his collectibles. I guarantee you. Guaranteed it's going to come up in another 10, 20 years worth double the amount or something. Who knows? Something crazy. You know what I mean? It was the first time that they advertised something like this on the air. They advertised it with a big company. It's going to go up in value. Right now, somebody's doing it.
I agree.
Everything they put out there, they do it. You know what I mean? You put it on a poster of Star Wars, how much are you going to pay for that now? Especially if you got the original version, So
one thing I know about Star Wars is new ones and Natalie Portman, because I used to have a crush on her back in the day, man. She's hot.
Oh man. Natalie Portman. Oh.
Oh.
Okay.
Boy.
Okay. We all got our own crushes, man. Yeah, I'm good with that. More of a Kelly Bundy. You know what I'm saying?
Who didn't like Christina Applegate? I mean, actually, I heard that she's going through some like real bad health shit, man.
Yeah, that's terrible. Body's attacking itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's all right though. We all have our favorites, man.
Listen, I can't think about Kelly Bundy without like also simultaneously envisioning like the old like Budweiser one-piece bathing suit calendar, and do you know what I'm talking about? Of course, of course you know.
Of course I do.
Yeah, it's like September 1988.
How do you think they sold beer? I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of kids being born, at that time because they sold the beer and had the hot chicks on the calendar. I mean, you had one or the other to thank for it.
Yeah, that's it. Yep, them Budweiser One Pieces. All right, lots of frizzy hair going on.
They were one piece, but they had plenty of cheeks, man. Yeah. Oh, they used to do things right back in the day. They had the exercise pants, but the back had to come up and the leotard on top.
Exactly. But I'm telling you, on the frontals, they're like snap, snap, snap. And it's like, excuse me, Donna, tuck the bush on the left.
That was the 80s.
Yeah.
Oh man, now I feel old.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, I ain't getting no younger. All this shit is antiquated now that we're talking about. Like any youngsters listening,
Yeah.
what the fuck we're talking about. You go a little later. We had beer drinking frogs for a while going on too. It's like every kid's favorite commercial. And that was totally right. Everybody was on board.
Oh yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, you had Where's the Beef, and then you had What's Up? You know what I mean?
Yeah, what's up? Yeah. That was like the super early '90s, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then you had Budweiser, right? Budweiser, and
Oh yeah.
fly right out of the corner of his mouth. Oh my god.
Oh, beer commercials used to be good. Now you drink beer just to watch the commercial. I mean, it's like you used to go, that commercial is great. I'm going to go get a beer. Now it's like, let me have the beer first because the commercial sucks without it.
Who used to have the Real Men of Genius commercials? Do you remember those? Those are
I do.
Real Men of Genius.
Dude, that had to be like Budweiser or something like that, right?
Bud Light.
It had to be Bud Light.
Beer commercial.
I remember. What's his name? Sam Elliott with the silver bullet. Sam Elliott's cool in himself, man, but when he says it, it's extra cool. You know what I mean? Coors.
Yeah. The Real Men of Genius was Bud Light, by the way.
Yeah, okay, Bud Light. Yeah, I thought that. Yeah. And they always had the guy do some smart shit.
Mr. Giant Taco Salad and Peter.
Oh, love it. Oh, man.
Fuck, those are young. See, they used to be good at this stuff, man. People suck now. Marketing sucks now. Everything sucks now. It's all just some hyper specific psyop fucking data, gathering, spyware bullshit, targeted marketing, blah blah blah. Ed punch, phrase here or whatever, catchphrase here. They came up with these commercials back in the day, and they were brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Dude. Did it make several kids alcoholics way too soon? Probably. But for you to talk about them 30 years later, I mean, yeah, they were good.
Yeah. See, they should hire us in the marketing department. You know what I mean? Let us all drink beer and tell us the stories, and then they come back with the right ads. See, that's the way to make it work. We don't have to hire some genius out of school who doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Just hire old guys like us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, bring back the Man Show and, chicks and
trampolines
on trampoline.
Oh, yeah. Can't go wrong with that. That's just good old-fashioned fun. You can't go wrong at all.
Oh, you guy. Yeah.
Oh, that was so great. Back when you were able to do things.
It would be like a non-binary, bull dyke lesbian, on a trampoline, except she's not jumping. And she looks fucking miserable.
Oh, you're going to pull long balls just fucking bomb on the trampoline. That's so wrong. Oh, my God, dude.
Some fucking fat, pink-haired, but it's washed out looking ass, dirty thrift clothes and dirty fucking toenails. I'm just standing on a trampoline.
Well, dude, the kids these days, they don't really take showers anymore. I mean, the women that find them have to clean them up. It's because their parents don't make them do anything anymore and have any rules in the house, so the kids come out dirty and they never wash.
That's because they kept on like fucking arresting and finding parents for fucking like being like, go to your room, and the kid's like, no, and start breaking shit in the house, and then they're like, oh really?
Yeah.
Oh really? That everything that happened after oh really got them in trouble. And then people are like, you know what? Whatever, man.
Oh, dude, we used to get the 5-finger tattoo across your face, man. As soon as you did that, oh really, at the first shot, it was whap right there, dude. It was game over. Yeah, back in the day, man, it was brutal. Kids talk. My son said, "Oh, Dad, you know things are hard to do out here," and I go, "What are you talking about, man? Things were way harder back in my day." You know what I mean? That shit was brutal. Like today, you guys just got a talking to. We got the belt and everything else, and you were singing different tunes at the wall.
So the problem is, even the talking tos don't work anymore. Not that they probably ever really did, but like they really don't now. Now kids would just straight up be like, "Fuck out of my room."
Yeah.
Just be like, "Okay, yeah, try not to live here until you're 34, all right?"
Oh man, yeah.
Like you tell your kids, like, all right, you can't bring a girl into your room and close the door or whatever, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
You think they were saying that so you wouldn't fuck the chick? They knew you were gonna fuck the chick, and they have nothing against you fucking the chick. They just know that if you can't bring someone home and screw them, that eventually that's gonna grow old, and you might actually fucking be motivated to get yourself a fucking job and find yourself a place
Get out.
where you can go and do whatever you want. You see, like.
See.
It wasn't a stupid thing. It wasn't that they were prude or super conservative or didn't want their kids participating in these things or was oblivious to the fact. It was motivation to get you in line to take care of yourself.
Oh yeah.
That's
you live in their basement until you were like 30-something years old. Yeah.
Yep. That's the way.
Oh man. Oh, yeah, good old days, Joe. Good old days. I miss all
we can
those.
reminisce. We can reminisce. It's good.
Yeah, I think we'll wrap it up for the day, though, dude. I got to get over to see what my son's doing. It's his birthday.
Yeah, we went the long haul today. Anyway, we did the full 3. So I think.
Oh, dude, we did great, man. I'm telling you, Joe. This stuff is getting easier every day.
No, you and I never have a problem. We're just 2 friends talking about shit that we, like and/or have chosen at one time to discuss it. Now we're pigeonholed into that one segment.
Yeah.
Like however you want to look at it, I guess.
Should just do it, Joe, man. Talk about whatever.
I mean, look, this is where I give guys like fucking Ashton Forbes credit. That bro will talk about those orbs and those orbs only.
Oh yeah.
Forever.
Oh yeah. No, that's like his second word out of his mouth is orb. It's always that.
And you could talk about it, right, but it's like there's one event at one time.
Yeah.
And we have a whole entire plethora of things that it's still like, you know what? Sometimes you just need to listen to bad AI made heavy metal and talk about old beer commercials. Sometimes you got to do that sort of thing.
Hey, maybe that's what I'm missing in what I do in my show, Joe. We go around, we talk about everything, we do everything right. But these people that are successful keep saying the same thing over and over until it drills in people's heads. I mean, maybe we're missing something. I don't know.
Well, I usually do. So you're probably right.
Monkey brain. Yeah, monkey brain.
Yeah. I've always figured things out to the greatest extent, except for how to make money doing it. I'm like, shit, I'm so good at this. You know what I should do? Everything in my power never to make $1 doing it. Make sure I spend lots of money on it. Lots of time and money on it.
Let me just give it away for free instead of going hitting up a physics guy and having him write the paper and me get cash. Yeah, I won't do that. I'll just give it away. That's funny.
So Deadfish does say before we wrap up today, he wants to recreate the orb. Yes, I saw him say that earlier. I should, but we got sidetracked. He wants to recreate the orb. Maybe it will fly. Well, I'd love nothing more than to get together with you and discuss how maybe something like that could happen. And
I know how to do it because John Bettini did a video, and I sent it to you a while back, and he talked about how they created one in open air with a vacuum. They used a vacuum cleaner and high voltage to do it. Okay? Basically, once you have a RAV going, get on the sheath zone of the RAV, create a vacuum. It'll make the thing swirl, and it'll create an orb on side of it, right? That's what they're doing. You just got to be able to create it big enough.
All right, so let's talk about this real quick because there's no way I could show it to you, but I'm going to give you kind of an example, okay? If you have quartz, all right, and if you have especially quartz with flat faces, and you bring them together, okay, well, now what you're going to realize very, very quickly if you just move it about the surface is that this doesn't act normal. Okay, there's all sorts of energetic pressure, and they're both creating energy as they contact each other, and then they're exchanging that energy, and that energy has dynamic polarity biases between the quartz itself. And what ends up happening is you get shifting. Now, it's not the same as a quantum spin liquid in terms of like radical and abrupt shifting, but what you end up with is a dynamic relationship that gradually builds in one direction or the other over time. And what you'll see is that there's very real force, okay, that will start moving the quartz in very strange directions, a very real force. And when I say force, I mean you can't stop it from doing it. Like it will turn your hand. It's very, very strange stuff. You'll feel moments of very tight resistance. You'll feel moments of very little resistance in the surface. You'll feel instabilities where it'll actually want to turn over. You know, and that's just by moving two pieces of quartz on.
Well, you got two different sizes. The frequency is different on each one of the angles that goes along there with each side. That would make perfect sense because they come in contact with each other, and then you're turning one on top of the other, so the numbers don't match up anymore. You know what I mean? And you'll get some that are magnetic and some that are non-magnetic. That means the force would change.
Now, because the lattice structure is all built in the same ratios, okay, those proportions are the same from crystal to crystal. Now, where it gets interesting is if you actually break a crystal, okay, if the crystal is made of the same lattice, it acts far stranger. Okay, so one will have a positive bias charge and the other will have a negative bias charge, but that's only on standard quartz, okay, meaning single termination. Now, how weird does it get when you break a double terminated piece?
I've never done it.
Well, I have lots of it.
Oh, well, then we'll have to try it.
And I have. And all it means is that the effect is that much stronger. That's all it is.
There we go.
Yeah, the effect is that much stronger.
You know, we're going to have to get Joe a simple frequency generator and then a piezo disc, a nice barium titanate one. They're like $10. The frequency generator is very cheap. And then it'll just put the frequency right into the piezo, and then you put the crystal right on top. And then as soon as it makes movement or jumps or turns, go back to that frequency and you can dial it in. And then you can see what each side is.
I did an experiment like that already, but what I used was I used a cavernous structure box that I made. Okay, that had all what was it? Pentagons that were all capped off with paper on both sides, all sides, and then I stacked them in certain whatever I did, right? And I left a cavity in the middle, a square cavity, that I then sealed off with like tape and paper, and I put it on top of the speaker, fastened it to the speaker to reduce the dampening, and then allowed it to build. Now, first of all,
Okay.
it acts as a passive amplifier. First of all,
Mhm.
where over time it builds an amplification by orders of magnitude because it's acting in um, harmonic capacitance
Yes.
with
Yes.
itself. And I was running frequency generators. That's exactly what I was running, and I did put quartz on top of it, and you could put all sorts of stuff, and it'll bounce around from the vibration. But what the quartz does is different. It doesn't bounce around from the vibration. It actually starts sliding around the surface, and it'll steer in certain directions depending on its resonant relationship with the caverns. So I've done it before. It's really really neat. It really acts almost like the Graviflyer does to a certain degree, and on the same principle base too, and the same principle base as the monks that we were talking about earlier, where you shake the rock and then the rock goes. And what's crazy is when the quartz starts oscillating, shaking at that speed from the vibration, but also then from its own resonance, it gets into like this weird mode where it's very strange to look at because it looks like it's kind of here but there
Hmm.
same time. So yeah,
Well,
pretty
imagine
bad stuff.
what happens if you cut every side exactly the same. Remember that one quartz we were looking at? You cut all the sides the same, and then you resonate it at the frequency that's supposed to be there. The
Mhm,
multiplication in that thing would be huge. You get finally what everybody's looking for. They understand that they're special. They don't understand why.
mhm.
But then if you know the frequency and how it works and you get it to resonate, then you could put the whole thing in harmonic resonance right then and there. I mean, you could literally pass information into quartz and hold it in there. I bet you all the ancient Egyptian gemstones themselves have a ton of information hidden in there. You think the library was paper? Are you kidding me? Go look in the quartz. Go look in the crystals that they have.
Every crystal that I have sitting around here has a full memory of everything that has been in its environment.
Yeah.
Now, uncoding that is another story.
Well, we build it into code now.
But every vibration that goes through it causes it to react. But every vibration that goes through it also does the same thing that I showed you in the crystal ball, which is have that point of inversion. And in that dead center, crosses Planck scale, it falls off of time and space, and that gets stored in that central point. And all of the lattices have that.
Hmm.
So
Well,
when
there
you
you
gain
go.
access to the central, that's where the Akashic record is. You see, that's the deal. Because what's in there is the same as where everything goes when it enters in there because it leaves the time and space.
Yeah.
And it goes into a record before it's flipped and projected out the other side.
We always have the Akashic record with us. People don't understand that we actually make crystalline structure in our body. It's in our brain. If you have gout, it's in your joints. You could do it out of your pee. I mean, look, the crystalline structures in the human body is already there. Think about what that means in resonance for your body versus crystals. If you can get them in the same resonance pattern, I mean, it's incredible, man. What actually the truth is, and when you start linking things up, what you find, crystals are awesome. I mean, I think people need to do more experiments on them. The other ones we have is people start saying the right words, but they're not showing you the way to do it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I think that needs to be put out there a little more. They like the guy says scalar waves are this, and then you put your picture in front of it. It's like, well, scalar waves are that, but putting your picture in front of it ain't going to do it, buddy. You got to go a little further. You know what I mean? Create that hairprint circuit. Let's see it. Then we all understand. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Whatever. All right, Joe, let's wrap it up, brother. All right. Darren, you're an awesome, good dude, man. If I have Old Man Build membership, man, right on. Give out a super sticker dude for $5. Thank you very much, Darren. Awesome, brother.
Thank
I want
you.
to thank everybody in the chat, man. You guys have been awesome today, man. We went over a lot of things, and you guys stuck with us. Awesome. So thank you, everybody.
Yep, and
have yourself
check
a
out
great
my
day.
new song on my YouTube channel, Polarity. I'll update the video, later this week. So maybe check back early next week for it. That way, I have like the lyrics and everything come up on the screen. You could read through it. It'd be cool.
Right on, guys. All right, everybody. Have a great night.
Peace and love.
The old man Bill. The old man Bill. The old man Bill. The old man builds. The old man builds is broken in the head. People not seeing reality has put them in the red. Where conscious and spirituality been stricken from the norm and replaced with the ignorance of basic magnetic form. The geometry of God keeps running through his head. That's what makes old man builds broken in the head. The old man builds. The old man builds. Spheres of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. Fears of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. Fears of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds.